This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. A absolutely packed show today. Amazing response to yesterday's part 1 of 2 of our 1290 reunion. So much fun having Westy back in the program, having Jim Toth on the program. And, of course, we also had Mike McIntyre join the show. And we've got a big one coming up today. We are going to be discussing Andrew Harris' situation, as well as the year after 1290 with our pal Darrin Bauming. Coming up first on today's program, my old partner on the afternoon ride, Rick Ralph's going to jump on. And we are also going to have Brandon Rewucki join us a little bit later on. And in the middle of all of it, we'll get ready for this big back-to-back in Dallas and Nashville with Murat of The Athletic. But, honestly, numbers were huge yesterday. Massive podcast downloads, a big bump on the YouTube episode. So just want to thank everyone. And if you maybe hadn't been normally popping by or weren't aware of what we're doing, great to have you with us. We're live every day at 1 p.m. Hit that red subscribe button if you haven't already. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up. And, of course, everybody listening on the podcast, we appreciate your support. If you do have the opportunity to give us a 5-star rating and a little review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it is always greatly appreciated. And speaking of appreciative, we couldn't be doing it without the great sponsors that make this program happen every day. F Apparel, Vita Health, Fresh Market, Culligan Water, Royal Sports, Not Auto Corp, Manitoba Battery, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey, and of course, our friends over at Coolbet Canada. So we'll continue having some fun with the old gang from 1290. We'll talk Jets before the big game in Dallas tomorrow night. And we'll start it all off by welcoming in Michael Remis, because there's a lot going on around Andrew Harris's departure, coaching firing in the National Hockey League, trade deadline in the NBA, and a couple blockbusters made already. So certainly a lot on our plate today as we get going on Winnipeg Sports Talk. What's going on, dude?
Hey, how are you? I'm in a great mood, Hustler. I'm coming into the show today. I've showered, shaved right before. I got an announcement. I went to my first movie in the theater yesterday in probably 3 years. The only movie that would get me into the theater, Jackass 4, fantastic. And there's fantastic.
Let's do our first ever Winnipeg Sports Talk movie review.
Yeah.
I mean, don't give away any spoilers, but a lot of people have been talking about this movie, especially the old Jackass hardos. I can imagine you and your idiot friends back in the day were probably like in the parking lot of like Grant Park High School or William Osler, taking, shopping carts from the Walmart and trying to play demolition derbies with them.
No comment. No comment. You're close. You're definitely close. Who didn't do that when it originally came out in like 2000? So we're going to, I sat down in a theater. I hadn't been in one again, probably 3 years. I'm like, man, this screen is enormous. I couldn't believe it. So I'm gonna have to go see more movies now in theater when I have time. But that's why I'm in such a good giddy mood today. I spent all night last night crying, laughing.
Well, hey, that's a good thing. I'm in a good mood too, although I have that and this happens all the time. Everyone knows my favorite spot is put it this way, earlier on in the day is Sal's. And I was up sort of early. I was listening to the guys in Edmonton as the Dave Tippett news broke. I figured this would be a great day to go. Just have a nice breakfast at Sal's, do some of the prep for the show. And I had such a good breakfast. The problem is sometimes you come home and you just want to go crush a 2.5 hour nap. But I've got the DP going right now. I'm hydrated. I had a bunch of Culligan water. I'm feeling good. And I don't even know where to start, Reem, because, well, you know what? Let's start with the Andrew Harris story. We'll get to the NBA trade deadline, and we'll certainly get to the situation in Edmonton. But, a couple things. I think anyone that follows Andrew on Instagram saw his story post earlier today where he just took a picture outside of IG Field, packed up some garbage and, grabbed his stuff, walked out, did a little one of these and said it's been real, and just really in the last half hour was introduced to the Toronto media in a Zoom call. But what has everybody talking, Remo, there it is if you're watching with us on YouTube. Garbage packed up, good to go. It's been real, IG Field. Thank you. What everyone's talking about is, and I got to give a ton of credit to Paul Friesen, the Winnipeg Sun. I think he sat down and did about a 26-minute interview with Andrew Harris and put together an extensive piece in the Sun today. And it was very telling from at least Harris's side about how things progressed over the course of the last month or so, and why he signed with the Toronto Argonauts. And, it was very interesting. You don't often get that sort of insight into back. And I know, the headline, as you can see there, said, sad to walk away. Andrew Harris's Bombers left him feeling insulted, unwanted. That wasn't the entire tone of it, but it was pretty clear that, they were not on the same page. And, while Andrew says, he still has a great amount of respect for everybody in the organization. And when he sees Coach O'Shea, he'll give him a big hug and see what's going on. I think he was, a little bit hurt at the way that things went. And listen, I also understand that Kyle Walters and Mike O'Shea had some difficult decisions. And Andrew Harris mentions that, he thought maybe some of the trust that they had in him was eroded a little bit considering the way last year went. Although the way things ended up with another Grey Cup championship, you sort of thought that might be able to be put in the background. But that would have also meant moving on from probably one of Johnny Augustine or Brady Oliveira. And that wasn't what the team was prepared to do at the time. So here we are, 33. It's going from blue and gold to double blue. And that is going to be a massive story in and around here for a long time, especially heading into the CFL season. In week 4, the one time that the Bombers and Argos will meet during the regular season, there's no game here in Winnipeg this season, Reem. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, a meeting in November for all the marbles. That would be a hell of a juicy storyline for next year's CFL season, but a long way to go before we get to that point.
Yeah, Andrew Harris leaving Winnipeg to Toronto, huge story of the CFL season, and huge story for the Bombers as well. I mean, the tide's changing here, and he came in, and the Bombers were not very good for a long time, and here they are, back-to-back Grey Cups, and he was a huge part of changing the organizational culture. It was that signing, kicked off a huge run, and I mean, part of the story, it depends which way you look at it. Part of the story with Paul Friesen, which was so awesome to read. Shout out to Paul, who's been doing great work covering, the Bombers during the offseason here and, throughout the season as well. Who put that together. What are you saying that, he felt like, they weren't open with him. But I think there's another side, maybe if he had an agent, the communication could have been easier. I mean, I'm not sure, but either way, he's not on the Bombers anymore. And it seems like it was a bit of a sad divorce. I don't know. Again, maybe you have vibes like the Patriots and Tom Brady when he left and eventually did win another Super Bowl with Tampa. But, I mean, it's going to be weird seeing him in a different jersey. And, he did speak to the media today in Toronto as well. So, wishing him all the best. We can't forget his contributions, but I guess it's business and they felt they had to move on.
It is an interesting point about the agent. And listen, I understand, with the amount of money these guys are making and the fact that they don't want to be chipping off a percentage to somebody else when things are pretty clear as to how things are going to work, and veteran players being able to do their own thing makes sense for them to be able to do it. But I do have time for the argument that maybe if there was more of a middleman in this situation, that, maybe things progress differently. And if they don't progress differently, maybe we still get to the same endpoint, but it maybe there's less hurt feelings. Maybe it was handled. I'm not saying either side didn't handle it well. I mean, we're obviously hearing Andrew's side of things, which, it's pretty straightforward. He went away for a while. The coach went away for a while. They hadn't spoken. And then on the weekend, he got a last-minute offer, which was nowhere close to what he was expecting and probably ended up getting from the Toronto Argonauts to stay here in Winnipeg. And listen, the bottom line is, this is a guy that has done so much. I mean, I hope that, everyone walking away from the Bombers in this situation for Andrew Harris was not really on his own. I mean, he took the best offer that was there. It was obviously considerably more. He's got a team that really wants him. But the one thing, Remo, I have absolutely no doubt is that he will come in with a chip on his shoulder the size of a boulder. And I'll tell you what, when we get going on our DraftKings DFS contest next year, much like this season when he was playing, ownership will be high, I think, for number 33, because I don't think anyone thinks that he's ready to pack it in just yet.
Yeah. Do we know if the Argos have a backup QB who comes in at the 1 and punches in the touchdown every time Harris takes it down to the goal line? Because I can't tell you. I mean, he had how many He didn't have that many touchdowns last year, but it seems like every time he was, in, he'd take it to the 1 or the 2, and then they'd bring in Sean McGuire. I don't know if.
Did you hear about McGuire, by the way?
No, he's not playing football, right?
Exactly. He is retiring. He's pursuing, I believe, a career in law enforcement. And the first thing I thought of when I heard that is, oh my God, Remis and DFS players are going to be so happy, because he is maybe the biggest touchdown vulture of all time. He led the Bombers in touchdowns last year.
Man, I wonder if that's going to be a big loss next year when they're at the goal line and Drew Brown comes in, or can anyone behind that O-line could I take a snap and punch it in behind that O-line? We know the Bombers have one of the top lines, but yeah, I think Andrews, I think it's going to be tough, 35-year-old running back, and, but he he didn't come in as prepared. He had a lot going on, in his personal life that affected him on the field. He had dealt with injuries. I do agree with you. He's going to be more ready for this season, and I am looking forward to him. I wish him all the best. I hope he does well. But again, sad to see what the bright note. I just realized this, Huss, and Paul Friesen posted the article yesterday on Twitter, and some people said, now that I've read this, I want to go out and get an Andrew Harris jersey. And I was like, yeah. I mean, the Bomber store's probably got tons of them. When's the Andrew Harris clearance jersey sale? Because that is right up my alley. You are getting a legendary Hall of Fame Bomber player for probably the fraction of a price of a current player. Like, who cares if he's not on the team? He was on 2 Grey Cups, 3 rushing titles as the Bombers. I think that's a great deal if you're looking for something. Royal Sports, we should talk to Royal. Are they blowing out?
Well, you know what? We'll put out a call and find out if that is happening. Here's my question for you, Remis, and we'll throw this to the chat as well. When is the next time a player on either the Bombers or Jets will wear number 33?
Oh, or Jets. Oh, man.
I mean, think about it. Buff and Harris, 2 of the most iconic figures in each respective team's history, both leaving in, strange circumstances. I mean, the Buff's leaving the team is still, in some ways, a complete mystery. And there'll be books and stories written about Buff, both on the ice and off the ice around these parts for a long, long time. And then, of course, in Andrew Harris' side of things, I mean, we've talked about how important he was to the team, a hometown guy that came back and did everything he did, the awards that he won, the championships that he won. Like, if I'm Wade Miller or I'm, the guys in the equipment room, I'm mothballing 33 for a long time. And who knows? I mean, depending on how much longer he plays, maybe that's a number that, ends up, not going out again. I guess my point is, interesting connection between the 2 numbers. I think it'll be a long time before we see a 33 worn either for the hockey club or the football team for a long, long time.
That's a good one, Huss. And I'm getting sad now just thinking about the unfortunate way the Bufflin situation ended here, and
the worst.
We haven't had a Buff tribute video.
No closure whatsoever.
Zero closure. We haven't been able to give him a standing ovation, and kind of the same thing with Andrew Harris. I mean, you're not going to have that moment, and we had the celebration at IG Field, but you're not going to have the return here. I mean, they're going to play the Argos in Toronto, but I just, now that you bring it up, like the Jets haven't had a number 33 since he left, and I mean, how could you want to put that jersey number on if you're the Jets?
You'd be an idiot. Like, unless they were forcing you to wear number 33.
Yeah.
And if you understood what number you were getting, like, listen, I don't care. Give me 62. Give me, 74, whatever. Give me the worst training camp number around. Don't put 33 on me. Not with the Winnipeg Jets in Winnipeg and being the first guy to wear that number after Dustin Byfuglien. And frankly, it'll be the same damn way if you're a running back coming in. Nah, maybe I'll take a number different than 33 with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, considering the guy that you'd be replacing in that jersey.
Yeah, that's a real tough call. I'm trying to Google now. Are there any defensemen they could trade for? Although, they have too many defensemen right now. They need to probably trade one away. Maybe, Johnny Kovacevic drops his training camp number and goes to 33. But it is interesting. I wonder if that's intention. If someone's like, yeah, I want to wear 33, and the equipment guy's like, sure.
Yeah, that's a no.
You sure about that? You want to wear 33?
Listen, I don't think it's on the table. I don't think it's on the table. And I'll tell you what, it shouldn't be on the table. I mean, it'd be unnecessary pressure on any particular player. And I think where both of those guys were, how important they were to the fans, the organizations, it wouldn't make sense to have someone else come in that spot. So Darrin Bauming is going to join us a little later on. I'll be looking forward to getting his take on, Andrew Harris leaving. And, we'll always have a great chat with Brandon Rewucki. I think we'll probably focus a little bit more on what's happening with the Winnipeg Jets, but I will get Brandon's take on, the Bombers offseason and free agency over the course of the last couple of weeks, the player movement and turnover over the course of this week, and also the end of a local hero now going to Toronto. And I'll tell you what, we talked a lot about getting canned yesterday, and I'm sure it'll come up again today. I can't wait to talk about it with Rick. And I won't give away too much, but this was a topic that Rick had prepared us for a long, long time, coming from his many, many years in the industry before Michael and I were into it. So stay tuned. Rick's going to jump in at about 10 minutes for what should be a very, very fun conversation. Remo, let's get to the Jets. Jets practicing today, off to Dallas tomorrow to take on the Dallas Stars. That is going to be an absolutely huge game. I mean, it goes without saying, if the Winnipeg Jets want to be a playoff team, at worst, they're going to have to be fifth in their division. Right now, they're sixth, and the Dallas Stars are ahead of them by 5 points. The Jets do have one game in hand, and it was the Stars coming out of the gate, well, much like the Jets did, knowing what they had to play for, and coming up with a big win last night at home against the Nashville Predators, winning 4-3. Which sets up a huge game tomorrow. I mean, not just getting a win, hopefully a clean win for either team would be a massive boost. I mean, the Stars could go 7-up on the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets, in turn, could get to within 3 points with a clean win. But the practice happened today, and here's the way the things looked. You had Stastny, Scheifele, Wheeler together again. Connor Kopp, Perfetti. No Dubois right now because he is in the United States. There is a chance that he could be cleared and play on the weekend. We'll get more information on that as it becomes available from the hockey club. But Svech, Lowry, Reichel, and Harkins, Tony Nato, and Vesalainen, and Austin Pugnansky now back off the list, rotating in. Where it's interesting, though, is on the blue line. Logan Stanley is back, and he's out of the non-contact jersey. Josh Morrissey with Dylan DeMello, Brendan Dillon with Nate Schmidt. And it's Ville Heinola with Neil Pionk on that other pairing, and then Logan Stanley with Johnny Kovacevic. I would be surprised if we see Ville Heinola come out of the lineup. I mean, I think I know there was that one play, maybe trying to do a bit too much in the 1-1 tie with the Philadelphia Flyers in that loss heading into the break, Reem. But, the St. Louis Blues game, I thought, was one of his best, and I thought he really raised his level play in the game on Tuesday against the Minnesota Wild. And as we talked about yesterday, both he and Perfetti, that I think was the style of game that might have been concerning to the Winnipeg Jets about how they'd be able to handle themselves in that tough, tight Central Division game. Both of them played very well, and I think Ville's certainly earned a spot in that lineup going into Dallas tomorrow night.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we do have some breaking news here from Marcus Foligno. about that suspension. People are asking us in chat, but I agree with you that Heinola seems to have passed Logan Stanley. I wonder if he'll get back. I guess anyone could get injured at any time. Anyone can go on the list like an hour before the game, apparently. So we'll see how that goes. But Heino's look good. I think he's deserved another shot. Maybe they're looking to ease Stanley in. Declan Chisholm sent back to the Moose as well because Pionk is off the list. So we do have the Marcus Foligno suspension coming in hot off the wire. You want to guess the number of games he got?
1.
Yeah, he got 2.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, should we watch you want to watch the video here? Want to hear the explanation? Or we're like, you need a guy in the head while he's down.
Yeah, he did something that gets you DQ'd from a UFC fight. And how's that?
And Brad Marchand did that too. Punched a goalie, not even a player, a goalie in the back of the head, which you can't even do in the UFC. And he got 6 games for that. So 2 for Marcus Foligno. Whatever I keep calling him. I can't remember if I called him Nick, but
I think I called him Nick yesterday.
You called him.
First, I thought I might have called him Mike,
yeah,
which really would have dated me. But no, it's Marcus, the brother of Nick, and the guy that's going to be missing 2 games for his WWE style, the V trigger. Shout out to Kenny Omega. I think a couple people called in that move in the chat yesterday, and it did crack me up.
Yeah, I mean, my take is, look, if you do something that gets you banned in the UFC. You shouldn't be able to do it in the NHL. So
2 minutes, unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, so I think
2 minutes in 2 games.
Kneeing a guy in the head, while he's down, that should be a suspension. So good job, NHL. And the Marchand got 6 games too, which I was shocked. I mean, he's a pretty good player. Usually, good players don't get suspended. They save that one for the.
Dude, he's a menace, a menace to society and a menace on the ice. I mean, they pretty much had to do it. You knew that they were serious when they offered him the in-person hearing. Mm-hmm. And I watched the video, the explanation of it. I mean, it really is just garbage from Marchand, and we shouldn't be surprised. We've seen this for better part of a decade. But I mean, a complete cheap shot punch to the goalie's head. And then as the ref is taking him away, like literally just a one-handed spear right to the head and neck. I mean, they had no choice to do it. I would have been fine if they gave him more, but at least I think it's a legitimate suspension.
I know Rick's here, and I gotta shut up. But I just want to say, it's really sad to me that Brad Marchand has to do that kind of BS because he's such a good player. He's so effective. He's been so funny on Twitter, ripping on the Coyotes and the Hurricanes. And I'm like, oh, I love Brad Marchand. He's so funny. I forgot all about all that stuff. Then he goes and does something like that, and you're like, oh, this guy's a complete idiot. Why is he doing that? But I guess that's what makes him, such a good player. That he, when Tristan Jarry is trying to toss a puck to a fan, he's there smacking the puck out of the stick, which again is kind of funny, but unnecessary to me.
Well, it was definitely unnecessary. That's not getting him suspended. But,
no, but it's a douche move.
Well,
and then you
100%.
punch a goalie in the back of the head. What are you doing?
I would expect nothing less. So we will talk more Jets with Murat coming up, and he's got a couple real interesting pieces in The Athletic. And Remo, keep an eye while we're talking with Rick if we get anything from the coach today. It would be interesting to hear what Dave Lowry had to say following practice, heading into these 2 huge games against Dallas and Nashville coming up on the weekend. We'll also have Rewucki join the program and DB coming up as well later on. But we're going to start it off with Rick Ralph. Before we do that, a big shout out to our friends at F Apparel. Great to have them on board with us. They, of course, are a Winnipeg-owned company and Winnipeg's leader in custom suits for men. Well, not just suits, but a full line of custom clothing for any occasion, including suits, dress shirts, winter jackets, casual chinos, golf pants, untucked dress shirts, shoes, ties, accessories, and more. Every guy needs at least one suit that fits and looks great, and F's custom-made suits start at just $400. And for this year, if you do have a wedding coming up, wedding parties get 15% off your purchase when you order a suit, shirt, and tie. And a heck of a lot better to, get a great deal on a suit that you can wear for a number of events than dropping $300 on a rental and then having to give it right back afterwards. Find out more at F Apparel. They're at 190 Smith Street, or you can check them out online or make an appointment to talk to them at that's EPHapparel.com. It's Heart Month. And Vita Health Fresh Market has you set up to stock up on your heart-healthy supplements, foods, and more over at Vita Health Fresh Market. They've got great prices on Winnipeg's best selection of natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, and some amazing healthy lunch options like Vita Market salads, soups, sandwiches, and more. You can also join the exclusive Vita VIP list by texting Vita VIP to 1-877-630-1970 to receive special offers all year long, and you'll be entered to win a $100 Vita Health gift card. Vita Health Fresh Market, 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, and online at myvita.ca. And of course, our friends at Culligan have been the go-to people for all things water-related in the city of Winnipeg for over 65 years. The Stewarts, family-owned business. They've been getting it done for, well, now into 7 decades. And they've got it all. Water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems, drinking water systems, citywide water delivery services, as well as commercial and industrial water products and solutions. Pop by and see him at 1200 Sargent Avenue. You can give him a call at 694-5180 or check him out online at drinkculligan.com. All right. Yesterday was quite a day. February 9th, a year from the infamous text message conference call, and then lights out at TSN 1290. And we had KO jump on yesterday. We had Westy. We had Jim. Brandon and Darrin Bauming will come on a little later on, but I was particularly excited to welcome back a guy that I probably talked to more than anybody for the better part of 2 or 3 years. My longtime pal on the afternoon ride, the one and only Rick Ralph. Double R, what's up, pal? How are you?
I am well, not unwell, Huss, actually. How are things there?
Things are good. We finally got above minus 25 for a couple days. I'll take it. Although the shovels are certainly getting a workout. What a winter it's been. But you know what, Rick? As crappy as the winter has been, that's just a small tidbit of the negativity around all of us. I mean, this is such a crazy time. There is so much craziness going around everywhere. Sometimes fun just to sit back and even have laughs, talk about things like getting whacked, because in comparison to everything else, it's actually a fun and happy topic.
Well, it's the second time I've been whacked in the media, Huss, as you know, and my late mother used to, when I first got whacked, June 24th of 2010. Why do I know that? Because she kept a perpetual calendar and every year would remind me that this would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year anniversary. So she's gone now. And because of that, I've not forgotten about February the 9th. I can even remember the exact time. It was 10 to 11. I'm having some scrambled eggs, as I told Sean Fitzgerald not long ago in The Athletic. And you text me and Remis and said, I think we're effed. To use that expression. And sure enough, by 11 o'clock, we're on the conference call. I did take some humor out of the call because whoever was on the call delivering the news, I can't remember, but you could hear all the dropped calls after the first sentence. No one was hanging around to hear the rest of that message. So yeah, here we are 1 year later, and who would have thought?
Well, and you know what? And I mean, you obviously have, an extended well, now, over 20 years in the business.
Yeah, 25.
And the one things I always joked, well, it wasn't even a joke, but you always said, he goes, yeah, well, you've never really made it to this business until you've gotten fired. So I remember talking to you afterwards going, well, I guess we finally made it.
I did it again. So yeah, that was a couple of guys that told me that, a little bit older, when I was first working in the media in Toronto. They said, you haven't made it in this industry until you've been fired. I'm thinking, that's kind of a load. But, I did meet a number of people that have moved around quite a bit as a result and had different jobs because of, now we say fired. Usually you're not just fired. You're laid off or restructured or whatever the technical term is for it. I think it's funny to say fired. But yeah, here we are. And congrats to you guys with Winnipeg Sports Talk now, almost a year in, and things are going well.
Yeah, you know what? It's been a lot of fun. I mean, that, I think the one thing that just came out of it was that, as much as the decision was brutal, and we heard it nonstop every day from the people that, really spent so much time with us, throughout the clock, that, the fact that there was a corporate decision that took out that station didn't change the fact that Winnipeg's a very passionate sports city. And I think there's a demand for this. And, as I said, we're just trying to find a way to continue doing this sort of thing. And, the response has been awesome, but so much of it is because of the opportunity that was presented by that decision. But you know what? You went through this, and we heard the stories from back in the Toronto days about, big corporate shakeups and things happening. It really is incredible to think about how different this business and the industry is, Rick, from when you first got in, rattling off sportscasts in the morning for for a massive audience as a part of the Fan, which was really the sports station, not just in Canada, but one of just a handful really in all of North America when you started.
Yeah, I started there in 95, in the fall of 95. They had just got off the ground about 2 years earlier. Dan Schulman had just left, and it was the only sports radio station in the country. You mentioned there was one in New York, the Fan in New York. There was no affiliation between Toronto and New York, different companies, that time owned by Telemedia, a Quebec company. But, we got in on the ground there. Some people might remember National Sports Radio that was carried here in Winnipeg. I was part of that program that was carried out here in the mid to late 90s. And then things shuffled again. But that's when, things changed and started to evolve. And then stations started popping up. A second one in Toronto. Chum got behind that. And that's kind of what led to the TSN brand, which is now owned by Bell. But it exploded. And now, of course, it got up to just about every major market had at least one sports station, if not two. And now we're kind of going back the other way. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But it's certainly changing and changing by the day.
Well, one of the other things that I know we always had a great time talking about with each other, bringing on the likes of a Tom Mayonek, you're talking about, the sports business aspect of everything. And I'll still never forget being in I guess it was the Regina airport, sitting around waiting. And I don't know, I think it was the time where I was still smoking, and I was outside with Mark Mayhew, our old boss. And that was when I found out about the Rogers deal for the National Hockey League. Like the all the TSN guys were in at the Grey Cup, and Pelly rolls in with the check to Bettman and says, here you go. You got an hour to let us know whether you're in or not. And obviously they took it. That I think we're going to look back at that deal in particular and just how it has in some ways hamstrung that company and everything that came from it. It'll be fascinating to see what the next deals look like, and do they go to an NFL model where they can utilize more. But the other thing is we're seeing, like, with the law of diminishing returns when it comes to radio rights and that number in Canada, I'm fascinated as to, the business side of, let's just talk about the National Hockey League for a minute here in Canada. I'm not sure how much more they can squeeze out of the media partners, and I certainly don't know how much more they can squeeze out of the fans, compounded by what's happened with the pandemic. It's going to be a fascinating next 5-10 years when it comes to the business of the National Hockey League, especially here in Canada.
Yeah, I remember when the Toronto Maple Leafs had their own channels come out, Maple Leaf TV and Raptor TV, and there was the talk of switching the games to their channels and kind of taking the broadcast in-house. And we've seen that to a degree here with the Winnipeg Jets, and we've seen it with other teams as well. And it's been going on for a while. Will it continue? I'm with you, Huss. I don't know, under the current climate anyway, what teams can expect from broadcast rights. You see some of the big players when it comes to the National Football League and the NBA. The NHL kind of pales in comparison to those television deals. And it's going to be a challenge going forward. And we've seen DAZN come in. I think it's DAZN, isn't it, that has come in with the streaming rights for the National Football League. So that in itself is changing. It will continue to evolve going ahead. Younger people are not watching traditional television, cable. So that's changing. Streaming services are big right now. People know about Crave, about Netflix, that sort of thing, Apple TV. I mean, that's the way it's all going. It probably won't change much as far as how it appears on your TV, but who you're paying to have those services, how they're delivering them, that is all evolving. So yeah, that'll be curious to see the way it goes and how it's handled. The only thing is, once the teams start to really control the broadcast, you're not really getting a lot of information. With all due respect to those that work the broadcast, you're not getting a lot of controversial things out of those. That's left to kind of the independents and the newspaper, the columnists, or now in this case, the online, the Athletic, those folks who do a very good job. We know Murat does the job here. And so, it's kind of evolved and changed. Hopefully that doesn't change as far as just being able to look at the game with different eyes, different ears, and different voices.
Well, no doubt about it. And I mean, on the other side of things, from a league's perspective and from these teams and a player and an agent, I do wonder how close they have gotten to, maxing out their revenues, and how, in a lot of cases, and whether it's from, ticket buying public, whether it's from the media. I mean, that HRR number that we always talked about, had to be a damn apologist to do this. Exactly. Shout out to Ron Hainsey. You do wonder. I mean, they were quite optimistic about where the cap was going to go this year. Well, and then you lost basically a month and a half of games, and we'll see how much they're able to get back. It's not just a done deal that, oh, you get through this, tough 18 months and then things are just going to keep on rocketing up in the direction they have over the past 15 years money-wise.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a find your way through this, and everybody's kind of involved in the same river that we're going down, or hopefully up, that, things kind of get better here. But there is certainly that uncertainty when it comes to, NHL revenue, NHL salaries, and how the two are connected with HRR. And so there could be some growing pains here going ahead. But, it'd be interesting to see. And, the NHL's done these numbers. They've got the 1, the 3, the 5 year, the 10 year. Be interesting to see what they have for low and high projections here going ahead when it comes to revenue.
Well, there's no doubt about it. And, a big part of it is play on the ice. And I mean, I know you haven't had to obsess over it on a day-to-day basis like we sort of had to in the past, but I know you're still paying attention. What are you made of this first half season for the Winnipeg Jets? I mean, listen, I think they, we went into this season thinking a lot of the things that we talked about last year that were holding the team back, at least apparently were fixed. Not so fast, Rick. I mean, very disappointing first half. And we heard from Cheveldayoff yesterday. I mean, I know outwardly they're saying they've still got confidence. I wouldn't expect anything else to come out of the organization, but yikes, this even despite the a nice win on Tuesday night, there is a lot of work and a big hill to climb for this team if they want to be relevant in the final month of the season in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah,
I don't know how many people had their hands up that Paul Maurice would be resigning and walking away, not being dismissed at some point if the season's not going well. Look, the things we were talking about last year, Huss, where the Jets, when you get in those high danger chances, opportunities in front of their own net, they're in the bottom third again in the league this year. I just had a look this morning just to double check. No, they're still down there. The thing that stands out to me is Connor Hellebuck, again, is in the better part of those numbers when it comes to preventing those opportunities that are presented to him in those high danger opportunities. So I think he's got about 9-12 save percentage right now and respectable goals against average. So he, again, is the reason why this team hangs in there. And yet, are they near a wild card spot? No, they're not. Things have gone a lot worse than I would have thought they would have gone for the team this season. It hasn't helped with the virus. All the teams I know are battling this, but that's been the hard part to me to follow along the National Hockey League, or at least sometimes get up for games this year, is when you hear of certain individuals out because of the COVID protocol and they're onto the taxi squad. Somebody you've never heard of gets popped into a lineup, and sometimes those are good stories, sometimes they're not. But it makes for, to me, almost an asterisk again on another NHL season where it gets a little bit clumsy here. Now, as far as the Jets trying to make the postseason, yeah, they've got the same number of games played, say, as the Calgary Flames or the teams they're trying to catch. The teams that have played more games are just in front of them. So, yeah, they could jump over that. But they're going to have to play here at an awful clip to try and leapfrog that many teams and get into the postseason. So then comes, the old argument every year. It was who can you move? What can you get for those moves? And what can you get for a draft pick? Well, I think the Montreal Canadiens have already got that covered. Bringing in Marty St. Louis, with all due respect to him, with very little coaching experience there in Columbus with special teams, now going to run the bench in Montreal, they've got an eye on the draft pick. So what the Jets do, they're in that position, Huss, and we've seen this before. Not quite low enough to get one of those good picks, not quite high enough to get into the playoffs. And, well, we've seen this movie before without going to the theater.
Yeah, well, you know what movie we haven't seen before? And think about you coming to Winnipeg. At the beginning, the Jets have just come here. It's 2011. There's all this incredible excitement. It essentially just takes over the city. It's all anyone talked about. I mean, you walk and see 10 people walking down the street. 6 or 7 of them are probably in Jets gear. And at the time, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were struggling. I mean, I guess they did get to the Grey Cup that year, but the next couple seasons were an abject disaster. Joe Mack, firing everyone and this team at the bottom. What an incredible turnaround. And listen, the Jets, have had some success. And they swept Edmonton. It's been a weird couple years. They had that great run in 2018. But I think from a big picture right now, the organization has far and away the biggest challenges that they've ever had, both off the ice business-wise, as well as the predicament that they're in. And then you look at what's happened with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and obviously there was the canceled season, but back-to-back Grey Cups. Like this sort of success for the football team seemed almost inconceivable earlier on, a couple of years into your time here in the Peg.
Yeah, that's just it. And I was able to get to the old stadium before they turned that down. And I remember Paul Lapalisse being here, and it was one of the few people I actually knew in Winnipeg, because I knew of him in Toronto when he was with the Argonauts, starting out as a coach there under John Heward, the only guy to wear a rain suit and a dome. So there was a lot of fun to that, and got to know him. So he invites me to a party here. Sarah Oleski was there as well. And a lot of the Bomber coaching staff at the time, and Joe Mack, as you mentioned, who I noticed was outside sitting at a picnic table by himself, should have been an omen as to how the season was going to go in those early years. But, we started to see some progress with the Bombers in, say, 13, 14, 15, getting through there. And then all of a sudden, as you mentioned, kind of a build, and now back-to-back championships for them. Great. Now probably paying a price. We've seen some of the players have to depart. Unfortunately, Andrew Harris being one of them. But that comes with the success, right? And I think nobody takes that away from them. There does come change from teams that have put little dynasties together here like the Bombers have. You hope that they can remain competitive in that, but that's something we'll see. There's still quite a bit to the offseason in the Canadian Football League. But who would have thought that the Bombers, if you go back to 2011, would be the championship team for a couple of years in this city and not, say, 8 years removed from when the Jets first landed here?
No, it is a great point. Rick Ralph is with us. Back to the Jets for a minute. I gave you a hat tip earlier because, we were coming out of the All-Star break after that disappointing loss to Philly. And thinking, okay, there's 40 games left in 81 days. I'm kind of doing the math. I'm like, well, to get to 95 points, we're talking about basically not 24, 11, and 5 in those 40 games. So because it's a half season, we've taken your 10-game segments and cut them into 5-game segments, Rick. The team needs three wins in every 5-game segment and mix in 4 or 5 loser points, and they might be able to get to that. But and the bottom line is in this, unlike the big picture of the regular season where you're just sort of monitoring it, you basically got to do that every 5-game segment because, you go over in one of them, all of a sudden you're needing to run the table in a couple other ones. And as we've seen, that hasn't been easy for this hockey club to do for an extended period, certainly this season.
Yeah, and you're running out of those 5-game segments. I chuckled when you mentioned the loser point because I remember telling Gary Bettman in a intermission interview, I said, one of the guys at the station does refer to it as the loser point. He got very upset by that and defended the whole thing. I didn't even mean for it to be a question. I just thought it was a throwaway thing to kind of get a reaction out of Gary, but he got very defensive about his loser point that he didn't like to call it as. But yeah, that becomes the hard part, right? And you've been all over that, Huss, about that loser point, if we can call it that, enables those teams to be hard to catch. So you can win 3 out of 5, but if those loser points keep creeping into the teams ahead of you, it's very hard to move ahead in these standings, and that's going to be tough again for these Jets to find the postseason.
Well, the East is done right now. Like, the East is over. Like, the Boston Bruins, if you look at the conference standings right now, the Boston Bruins are the 8th team. They've got 55 points in 44 games. They've got a 7-point lead and 4 games in hand on Detroit. It's over. It is like 99.9% that we know the teams right now, they're in the playoffs with another half of the season to play. And I don't know. If I'm the commissioner of the National Hockey League, I don't think that's a great thing to have happen. Every one of those teams below the Detroit Red Wings, outside of maybe the Islanders, because they still they've only played 40 games because of all the games that they've missed, are essentially in next year mode now. And, the draft lottery toy is fun, but I don't know if you want half the league playing with that thing on their afternoon shows each and every day like we did back in 2016.
Well, and Gary will tell you that that's cyclical, right? That's what happens in the National Hockey League, that things move around like that. The New Jersey Devils, I see, continue to be way down there in the standings. You may notice a Marty Brodeur picture behind me here in the office. It is not mine. However, the office that I have kind of moved into here is a big Devils fan.
It's not a Chris Terreri.
And now
I just assumed that if it was the Devils goalie at the Virtuity HQ, it would be Terreri, not Brodeur.
Well, I won't lie. There is a Ryan Reeves jersey around here somewhere as well. So, the Virtuity does have a long-standing connection, not by all members, but to one in particular, to the New Jersey Devils, who, again, languishing at the bottom. And is PK willing to go back to Montreal? That would be kind of fun to get things talking. And see, that's the thing about sports this time of year is you need these outlets to discuss all these kind of moves. But yeah, to me, you mentioned the East. It is cut and dried, and it has been a little bit for a while. And it's kind of disappointing. You like to see the races when it comes to the playoffs, but really that's left to the West. And, dare I say, the Winnipeg Jets really aren't going to be a big player in it.
Yeah, well, they got a lot of work to do if they even want to be, in the conversation come a month right now. And next step is to get a win in Dallas on Friday night. You mentioned Virtuity. Longtime listeners of the station knew that. You had done a number of very entertaining commercials for Virtuity. But I've said this before. You were always, really interested in the markets, in numbers, and seems like a pretty good opportunities come your way. I mean, fill people in on what you're doing right now. And I have a feeling, with the housing market, there may be some people that could utilize the services of one Rick Ralph.
Well, Hassan, you mentioned those commercials back in the day from Virtuity on the radio station. I mean, it was fun to do because usually when a client buys an ad on a radio station, then there is a script writer who connects the client, wants to know what exactly they want in the ad, and then writes the script. And then you go in and you voice the script. Should take about 10 to 15 minutes. Anytime I would go in, and sometimes it involved Ryan Reeves, sometimes it involved Ryan Reeves and Darcy Oak. The script that was provided was not really liked by Reeves and Oak, which is kind of funny because it's not their business, but one of the members of Virtuity would be there, Todd, and it would basically come, I would apologize to the scriptwriter, we would trash the whole ad and basically do it from scratch. So it would take about an hour to do, but it was it was a lot of fun. And so that's kind of, the way things kind of get started. And so when everything fell apart here on February 9th of last year, I think it was May, that Todd reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in mortgage, working in the mortgage business? And I said, what have I got to do? Got to take a course. So during the lockdown that we also enjoyed last spring, not at all. I thought, what else have I got to do but take the course, study hard. And that's where we are now. We're here at Virtuity Mortgage. It'll be a year in September, and working as, I guess you call it, a mortgage agent. But yeah, brokering mortgage, refinancing people this time of year seems to be the thing coming out of the holidays, but looking forward to the spring market when things tend to pick up and people can see what homes really look like when the snow melts.
Yeah, no kidding. When you can actually see some of these places.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess the one part of all of this pandemic, and I'll be honest, I didn't see this going. There's so much unknown. But if there's one area that's just gone like a rocket, it's been home sales. It's been that aspect because people aren't traveling. They aren't doing other things. They're spending so much time at home. It's more time with the family. They realize, good Lord, I need a much bigger place to get away from all these people at times.
Yeah, it makes me wish I hadn't sold the house in 2011 in Toronto, because I've seen now that Toronto's overtaken Vancouver for the most expensive homes on average in the market. Now, that's one report. I haven't looked into that too much. Probably won't spend any time on it either. But yeah, anybody that's been looking to buy homes, certainly in the last decade, because of the low interest rates, have noticed how home prices have gone. And now the Bank of Canada is starting to make a little bit of noise, how they may raise the variable rate a little bit. So people will get nervous. We've got a lot of calls on that. People poking around, wondering about what interest rates are, that sort of thing. But, I had a guy call the other day. He remembers 14, 15%. I remember my parents at 21% on a mortgage. So, we're still in some pretty good times when you compare it historically.
People are wondering, how's Higgins doing?
He doesn't like the cold. Once it gets past about minus 19, he doesn't like to go out. He doesn't like to wear his boots either. He's confused by deer. He sees a lot of those out in Charleswood. He's not very ferocious. He doesn't bark, so becomes kind of fruitless when it comes to dealing with the animals. But he is a star of Instagram. He doesn't get a lot of attention, but people do enjoy seeing his mug. He's kind of got a big head and enjoys eating pretty much anything.
Oh man, dude, this has been so great to catch up with you. I look forward to doing it in person over a couple of beverages at some point very soon, but obviously everyone wishing you the best. Great to have you back on the program to catch up, and all the best over at Virtuity, and let's chop it up soon, both here on the program and at a bar top somewhere soon.
Well, speaking of bars, and it won't take long, Huss, but you invited a bunch of listeners at one time to the bar. That's where we met Straight Blade Ralph, and I'm wondering if you've heard from Ralph Condon at all.
You know what? No, and unfortunately, I would bet that Ralph is probably not entirely dialed into YouTube or to getting podcasts, but yeah. The legend Ralph in St. James, we definitely need to reach out. He would be, and we had a bunch of the guys on from the station yesterday and today. By far, the most requested person in the chat, in addition to the guys on, has been Ralph in St. James. So we'll put out an APB for Ralph and hopefully get him at, and maybe we'll drag him out to the Heights or the Dales somewhere, because I know he's out in that spot. And we can have one from Ralph and do a little catching up.
Yeah, sounds good. Keep me in the loop. Keep up the good work.
You got it. Appreciate it, Rick. Folks, give him a follow on Twitter. It is at RickRalphNS. That is our great friend, Rick Ralph. And of course, if you do need any mortgage help, hit him up over with the guys at Virtuity Mortgage. All right, Murat coming up in just a second. Before we do that, Donnie and the guys at Manitoba Battery ready for another little bit of a cold snap, but I think we've got about a week of it. And I've probably said this, I don't know how many times this winter. the bottom line is you got to make sure that your car is ready to go, able to start, and you're not calling your pals for boosts. And of course, Manitoba Battery is the premier stop for all your battery needs in Winnipeg and Manitoba at the best prices. Most automotive batteries priced for less than $100 with core exchange, or they'll deliver it to your door anywhere in Winnipeg for $115 on the same day you order it, as long as you can get that order in by 1:30 p.m. As you can see on the screen, batteries, chargers, booster cables as well. Everything that goes along with powering a vehicle, they've got at Manitoba Battery. And for all you ice fishing hardos getting ready to get back out on the lake, Manitoba Battery has the flasher batteries you need to keep you catching fish for the rest of the season. Get on down and see Donnie Kimbo and the entire gang at Winnipeg Manitoba Battery for your needs. 1026 Logan, 783-8787, or online at manitobabattery.com. We're just a few days away from the Super Bowl on the weekend. And as we mentioned, I guess just 2 days ago, Royal Sports got their latest shipment of Super Bowl shirts in for both the Bengals and the Rams. If you want to get outfitted for one of those teams before the weekend, I suggest you get down there ASAP and grab them before they're gone. While you're there, check out one of 4 new exclusive Blue Bomber back-to-back championship hats that came in last week, not to mention all the other Blue Bomber gear, the thousands upon thousands of pieces of Winnipeg Jets merchandise, many exclusives as well, not to mention the huge hockey superstore selection, snowboards, fitness, and more, and all the cool stuff over on the Kings Skate, Snow, and Surf side. Royal Sports been with us from day one, and long before that, incredible support from the Has-Speaks. Can't thank them enough for it. Pop down and see him at 750 Pembina Highway, or check him out online on Instagram, I should say, at Royal Sports Pembina. And Trevor Knott over at Knott Autocorp, another guy that's been with us from day one. Incredible support from Trevor and the Knott team, dating back to our days on 1290. Knott Autocorp is the place to start your search if you're looking for a new vehicle in 2022 for you and your family. Why not get into the car of your dreams at an incredible price with the Knott team? You can check out all the amazing vehicles they have on site at Waverly and McGillivray, or talk to one of the experts at Knott. If there's a particular make and model that you are looking for, they'll help you source it, get it here to Winnipeg, and get you in it for the best possible price. Knott Autocorp, Waverly and McGillivray, along with the new Winnipeg Car Lab, and online at knott.ca. All right, we'll continue our little trip down memory lane. We'll actually get to a lot of present topics as well with Brandon Rewucki a little later on. And of course, more on Andrew Harris's departure and a catch up with our old pal Darrin Bauming coming up in a few minutes. But right now, let's get to the latest on the Winnipeg Jets with our good friend Murat, who joins us ahead of a huge back-to-back, coming off a big win to start the back end of the season. Murat, what's up? How are you, my friend?
Doing great. I was just getting fired up. You know, I get on, like, viewers might not know this, a couple minutes in advance. I see you chopping it up with Rick. That was so nice to see. To even get you, like, going through the ads and all that sort of stuff, I get really psyched to talk to you. So I'm in a great mood. I'm ready to go.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, you know what I mean? These last couple shows have been so much fun, and we wanted to make sure we still had you on because there's so much to talk about when it comes to the Jets and a very crucial period of the season, considering the predicament that they've got them in. But yesterday was one of those days. We knew it was the 1 year from the infamous morning where we got a text message that there'd be a conference call in 20 minutes, and check the Twitter feed and go, I don't think this is good, guys. And so you know what? A year later, I think what this is show 236 of Winnipeg Sports Talk, and we knew it would be a great time to get back a bunch of the guys on the program. So real fun to have Rick on, and of course the other guys. But you know, and also an opportunity to thank guys like you, especially you, for the amount of time that you've given us and our listeners over the course of this first year. And heck, it's gone well. We'll celebrate 1 year coming up next month, and can't wait to do it again into 2022, and hopefully for a long time. So from myself and Michael and all of our listeners, thank you for being with us all year long, Murat.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me on at any opportunity. It's the most fun I have. So yeah, any pretense to talk hockey with you, I'm in.
So last week we spoke, and I remember the look on your face when I dropped the 10% number after the Philly loss, that it was going to be a real uphill battle. The Jets certainly helped their cause with their performance. With another depleted lineup, no Pionk, no Pierre-Luc Dubois. And it's something weird about this team, Murat. You know, right when you least expect it, or maybe they're dealing with the most adversity, they come up with a performance like that where everyone steps up, plays a full 60 minutes. It's all hands on deck. They do the little things that you need to do to survive a very good team like the Minnesota Wild, and you get a big win. I mean, it's just one win. It's just 2 points. It was a very nice way to start things off. I was in the building. It was great to see some fans there, and they brought a lot of energy, even though it was barely even half full. That being said, it was a nice win, but they got to do that over and over and over again for us to be talking about this team, even in the mix for a playoff. But what did you think of the way they started off coming out of the All-Star break? Shorthanded, but getting a big shutout win.
Well, yeah, I mean, they controlled what they could control, which was the one night. And it's nice to see a Winnipeg Jets team play as committed as that for the full 60 minutes. Minnesota's forecheck was an issue for the Jets at various times, but they held. They kept moving pucks out. They survived. They got a great game from Connor Hellebuyck. Keep that going, and fortunes can change. That's what they need. They got a goal from Mark Scheifele, which I thought was poetry, because Scheifele's been a bit snake bit, missed some chances that he usually finishes, and the goal that he scores on, beautiful feed from Kyle Connor, nice setup from Blake Wheeler, but he doesn't get all of the one-timer. Still finds its way into the net, and you'd like to see that for Mark Scheifele, because I think offensively, he's owed a bounce or two, and that's not how it works. It actually has to happen that way. But to see him get that was huge. To see them hold on to the lead. And I was reminded, I was at that San Jose game early in the season, back in October, when half of San Jose's team was, on COVID protocol, and you're thinking, okay, this is easy pickings for the Winnipeg Jets, come on 2 points. And San Jose played an incredible game. And you're looking for, well, where's Winnipeg's version of that? Where's the resilience of the committed 60 minutes and everybody kind of working together and getting those bounces and all that sort of stuff? One time we saw it. We saw it against Minnesota the other night. And it's a great start. They'll need a few of those, I think, before it really starts to feel like they're normal.
You know what? It's funny, and I'll point people to The Athletic, and Murat had a piece. Hey, for those of you, and I'm included in this group, that are still holding on to the possibility that, we see the best out of this team, and they get on a bit of a roll, and we start talking about meaningful games, and it's not just 3 weeks of who's going to get traded away at the deadline. You have a piece in The Athletic this week called "How the Jets Can Turn Slim Odds into Playoff Reality." From a Connor Hellebuyck surge to the ideal forward mix. I mean, right there. Number one, Hellebuyck needs to reclaim Vezina Trophy form. And number two is Winnipeg needs to finish its freaking chances. Well, they got a great game from Connor Hellebuyck. And, it was great to see him excited afterwards, celebrating the first star. And the chances that you mentioned, the one thing we can't say about Mark Scheifele is that he hasn't been getting chances. He just hasn't been burying them. And listen, you're right. That wasn't a vintage 55 goal. But I will suggest it could be a very important goal for Mark Scheifele to give him a little bit of confidence, knowing that, it is eventually going to come if you keep getting pucks on net and finding the opportunities to do it. And it ended up being the winner in a very tight hockey game, Murat.
Yeah, I think that's an important part of the story. And Mark Scheifele's strengths are known. He's such a good offensive player. He protects the puck well. He has vision like few players do. He has a great sense of timing. He can find lanes. And he has that shot, not just a playmaker. He's often at a 30-goal pace or close to it. And it's because of that one-timer on the power play. It's because of the sorts of situations he's been able to get himself into and hasn't necessarily finished as often this year. So I think even though we can point to a whole bunch of chances throughout that game that Winnipeg had, Kyle Connor misses an empty net. Ville Heinola thought he scored. Paul Stastny, Cole Perfetti, what a pass to Paul Stastny beside the net at the end of that one power play. There were so many, but it is important because Mark Scheifele is a leader on that team. His offensive production will help carry it. And if he can score at that rate that you're accustomed to, he'll outscore a lot of the problems on the other end of the ice. And that's a big part of Winnipeg winning. So I think that the fact that it was him is a huge part of the story.
One of the other things, and as I said, I was at the game, so I was with my buddy Murray, and we're talking about throughout, and you're sort of on pins and needles. I mean, I think Jet fans that have certainly this season have been sort of just accustomed to expecting the worst, something bad happening, a bad bounce, whatever, and they continue to hold on, they continue to fight. Two guys really stood out to me that you wouldn't normally expect in a game like that, and it was Cole Perfetti and Ville Heinola. And I couldn't help but thinking as we walked out that is the sort of game that I think Paul Maurice would have been very apprehensive to have those players in. Now, Dave Lowry didn't have much choice. I mean, it was whoever was healthy and could get into the lineup with everyone that was out was going to be out there. But it was interesting to see how much those two played, the situations that they played in, and how they both rose to the occasion. I mean, Perfetti got smoked a couple times. I mean, one really hard hit, ended up fighting through it and then still showing some of the gifts that he brings to the team with some beautiful passes, including one that, was beautiful setup to Ville Heinola, who's showing that, despite some hiccups so far during his time this season with the Jets, he still has a next level confidence that he can be a difference maker, especially in the offensive zone. And my takeaway from the game about those two young players is I don't think it could have gone much better for the way they acquitted himself in a tough divisional game against an excellent Wild team that was playing almost a playoff style tight matchup.
Yeah, I mean, in Ville Heinola's case, beyond, looking good at various points in that game and almost scoring, it's the fact that he was doing it in vintage Ville Heinola ways, in the kinds of ways that he has success with at the AHL level, making the read, jumping into the offensive zone, with that confidence that Cole Perfetti in particular was going to see him pop into that lane, was going to find him in a great spot. Cole Perfetti made multiple passes to Heinola in his wheelhouse as well, so he can take that right into an offensive opportunity. And that's chemistry is what it is. That's that same play happening a whole bunch of times for the Manitoba Moose. To the point of, Paul Maurice may have been apprehensive of that. Well, does he like young players or not? It's interesting because with Blake Wheeler's injury, Cole Perfetti, a door opens for him. He comes back, Nick Ehlers gets hurt. And there's a decision that Winnipeg may have needed to make. What do you do? Can you find room in the top six for Cole Perfetti with everybody healthy? That they haven't needed to make. As a result, or maybe they would have found it anyway, a lot of second line ice time, some power play time as well. And he's getting look after look. And I think that that's the kind of thing that a player who's going to get smoked like he has done, but who has that brain that just really carves apart teams, that can slow down the pace of play, that can find lanes. I think that what you want for him is rep after rep in the offensive zone with opportunities to figure out the patterns and make those reads. Those passes to Heinola were one thing. That pass to Stastny as well, where the shoulder check that leads to that pass happens like a few beats before he picks up the puck and then he fires it over. I mean, that's vision, and you're getting to reap the rewards because you've been able to play him at the NHL level.
Murat of The Athletic with us here in Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. All this leads into a massive 2 games. And this game in particular on Friday, I would argue, especially with the Stars' clean win over the Predators last night, maybe one of the most important games. And I hope we're probably continuing to say this because if you keep winning, then it makes the next one that much more important. But we sort of laid this out. The Jets are 6th in the division. It is impossible to make the playoffs if you don't at least get to 5th. The top 4 teams look like they're going to be pretty tough to catch. We'll see what happens in the Pacific and how things shake out. But I'm not sure there's a bigger game on the schedule the rest of the way than head-to-head matchups against the Dallas Stars, considering the Jets are 5 points back with 1 game in hand going into Friday.
You got to beat the teams you're chasing. You got it. That's just part of the reality. Everything is a 4-point game. There's so many divisional rivalries. And not only is a huge part of Winnipeg trying to make the playoffs about getting that 60-minute effort that we saw, about getting goals from Mark Scheifele, big games from Connor Hellebuck, playing the youth when they're being productive as well, all that sort of stuff. They need help in the standings, and they can give themselves their own help by taking on a team like Dallas that has a lot of good things going for it, has some struggles too. Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin and the sorts of players that have often just went off for them. I think there's a new generation in that city. But it's going to take teams falling out as well. And you're sort of looking and picking and choosing. Well, who has a weak goal differential? Whose 5-on-5 metrics aren't so good? Whose goalie might fall off? And UC Saros in Nashville, you don't really believe he's going to fall off. Calgary's a few points ahead of Winnipeg as well. Their goal differential is incredible. They're playing well. What about Dallas? What about, Anaheim? What about Los Angeles? Other teams that you might be able to pick off. And Winnipeg has to win every opportunity that it gets immediately, starting with this back-to-back.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. We saw the Flames do a number on the Golden Knights last night. To me, honestly, and I would think I was talking about this on the Lock Shop earlier this week, we were looking at the Stanley Cup odds at the break, and we were looking at, who's a team that might be a good value bet. And I focused in on the Flames at 23-1. And listen, I mean, I think that, certainly you've got the Avalanche and you've got Vegas that, will be clearly ranked, much higher. But when you look at the way that team has played and the goaltending that they're getting from Jacob Markstrom, and the fact that Daryl Sutter has come in and done the job, turned around one of the most disappointing teams in the National Hockey League last year into a team that showed last night they can play with anyone. They're a team, like if you're looking at checking the boxes of what a team that might come in not in first or second place that can really make noise in the postseason, to me, the Calgary Flames are that team. I think they are going to be a playoff team for sure. But I'm still stunned at what's happening in Edmonton. And I guess I'll get your comments on today. I mean, they'd won 5 of 6 after that terrible stretch. It seemed like they've kind of got it back together. They go to the All-Star break and come back with 2 of the most uninspiring losses. And the game last night to the Chicago Blackhawks, a horrible first period and a terrible third period, ended up costing Dave Tippett his job. I mean, were you surprised that happened today? And just what do you make of the Edmonton Oilers with all that talent and where they're sitting right now in the season?
Oh, my thoughts on the Edmonton Oilers can get long-winded. I mean, that's a team I followed really closely for most of my life. And, I remember the day Edmonton won the Connor McDavid draft lottery, thinking to myself, if this is a smart organization, they're going to be looking at the second and third year of his entry-level deal as the single most cap-efficient contract that has ever happened in the NHL. You look at what Pittsburgh did. They stacked as much as possible with reliable veterans around Sidney Crosby. Edmonton didn't do that. They were waiting. They traded away their talents. They've gone through coaching. They've gone through management. They've spent a pile of assets on players that you sort of scratch your head at a little bit as well. So that despite having the McDavids and Draisaitl's of the world, the rest of that team has not had a lot of sum of parts to work with. And I don't think Dave Tippett was getting a lot from the parts that he had. I mean, his big move against Winnipeg last year was to put Draisaitl and McDavid together, which I thought was a pretty big overreaction because Draisaitl and McDavid on independent lines were doing quite a number in game 1 from a chance perspective. I don't know that they've had a lot of success, and I don't know that they're a team I point to and think that they should have had a lot of success over the last little while. The surprising thing to me, though, was you heard management come out kind of in support of Dave Tippett a few weeks ago, and then things started to go well. And I wondered if that ship had perhaps sailed a little bit. And then to see the, like you say, the uninspired games and all that sort of stuff, well, it's time to move on. And congratulations to former Jets assistant, Todd Woodcroft's brother, Jay. I believe that's the family connection as well, on being able to take over that place, because there's so many wonderful parts to that team. You'd like to think that somebody can get more out of them.
Well, and just the nature of the coaching change is interesting as well. And I'm sort of with you. I mean, I think they stood behind Dave Tippett because they realized that they hadn't done a lot to help him move this thing forward in the offseason. And, his decision to go with Mike Smith last night in consecutive games and what they got from him maybe ended up being the final nail in the coffin. But we can talk about Dave Tippett all we want. Ken Holland's the guy that hasn't done anything to touch the goaltending position in the last couple of years. And it is very clear that that's been an Achilles heel. And it seems like the negativity from goaltending is now seeping into other areas because, and this has got to be the scariest thing for Oiler fans. If you watch Connor McDavid last night, he looked indifferent at times. He still has this all-world speed and can take over a game, but there weren't very many glimpses of that. And this is a mental game as well, Murat, and losing and the pressure on a player like McDavid and Draisaitl, for that matter, really takes its toll. And I have a feeling from their perspective, they realized they had to do something, and this was just something they could do because continuing the status quo, this team wasn't going anywhere, despite having arguably 2 of the top handful of players on planet Earth.
I think people need to believe that there is something good possible. If you're having a downtime and you can look a few weeks in the calendar, something good's coming up, that's inspiring. I think if you're an Edmonton Oilers player and you don't have that confidence in the goalies on the back-to-back, you don't, whether it's Smith or Koskinen or whomever, or you don't have confidence in the depth, how long can even some of the best players on the planet maintain their level and continue to go up against that wall every single night? And from an analytic perspective, the Oilers are an amazing team when those guys are on the ice. They are well worth their contracts, and yet the narrative is, well, these guys can't win, despite the fact that they're being dragged down by so much, inefficient money spread out throughout the rest of that roster. And you're right to put that on management. You're right to put that on Ken Holland. You're right to put that on Peter Chiarelli before him as well. I think there's a sense sometimes that they know better than the market does, or they know better, and no decision, perhaps from a coaching perspective, is more emblematic of that than the Mike Smith decision that eventually perhaps leads directly to that firing.
Speaking with Mike Smith is in the chat. Watch it, Huss. This is not on me. Mike, no, you're right. It's not on you. They were terrible in the first period, although when you do let in the first 2 shots and get the Bronx cheer on your first save, not a great way to start the game. And unfortunately, it hasn't been Smith all year. It's been usually other guys, Koskinen mostly, every now and then Skinner. But that has happened over and over again, and you just feel this team get deflated at the beginning of it all. All that being said, it'll be interesting to see how this works. And the other thing that I found, I took note of was the fact that they didn't go within their current coaching staff like the Winnipeg Jets did with promoting Dave Lowry when Paul Maurice moved on. They went to their American Hockey League team for guys that were in the organization but not with that group. And the thing about Edmonton is there's not a whole big core of these young players. I mean, there's a few guys that are seemingly on the fringe, but more often than not, these guys are new voices coming from a different team that have done quite a good job now working with players at very, very different stages of their careers, as well as stages of their paychecks, Murat. And that to me is, that challenge for Woodcroft and Dave Manson will be very interesting to see how they play out and what that means for them in the short term, and obviously going into the offseason for who will be the permanent head coach next season.
I think that coming up as a tandem of sorts or a group is, at least it empowers them to be them. And if there's success that there's having, there's this vote of confidence that says, okay, that there's quality here or what have you, or give yourself a chance to at least go out doing it your way. When you rotate one position, as Winnipeg did, what the confidence in that situation says, or what the message it says, is that everything else is probably fine because you're not going to get drastic changes. It's a new voice and that's it. You might get a little bit more change, and change is dangerous. It could be a good thing, and I think that the results that Woodcroft and company have had at the AHL level are probably inspiring. It could be a dangerous thing because it may mess with whatever consistency Edmonton has been able to put together. So I use it, I guess, I'm really thinking about Dave Lowry here in Winnipeg. And you heard Kevin Cheveldayoff's sort of suggestion yesterday that the circumstances have been tough, to be sure. Dave Lowry has preached things that a lot of coaches preach, to be sure. Those are good things, but results have to come at the end of the day. And it seemed to me that whereas in Winnipeg's situation where they shuffled one chair, they were really hoping for the best. They're really hoping is the right word, I think, for a voice change to be the change that they needed. And I'm, less and less confident, unless they have an incredible resurgence, that the staff will return next year. Because I think if you do bring in somebody new, I've pivoted, obviously, I'm talking about, Dave Lowry. If you do bring somebody new, I think you have to empower that person to bring in their staff, at least their version of Dave Manson or whomever that might be.
Yeah, no, I think you're bang on. And just while we're on that topic, bringing it back to the Jets, Dave Lowry's got an opportunity to try and straighten the ship out and, make things happen. I'm sure if he does, he'll maybe get an opportunity to be, to have the interim tag removed. But as it stands right now, Lowry's an interim coach in Winnipeg. You got the situation we just mentioned in Edmonton. Got freaking Marty St. Louis coming from being an assistant coach on a Pee Wee team to being the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, which is very interesting. Mike Yeo's going to be the coach for the rest of the season in Philadelphia. I can't imagine after a 13-game losing streak they're going to be bringing him back. I'm not sure if Brad Shaw's permanent or interim in Chicago, but the bottom line is there's already a bunch of situations that may be calling for new coaches, and we're just halfway left of the season. If these teams stay there with that and then decide to do their search in the offseason, the coaching market, it'll be one of the most interesting years when it comes to that market, Murat, that we've seen in a very, very long time, with many teams, and the Jets would be included, that potentially already thinking about next season while they're still playing out the stretch in 2021-22.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. I mean, it reminds me, a couple years ago, we had a bit of a carousel going throughout the league, and Pete DeBoer moves on, and folks were wondering at that time about Paul Maurice, and there had been a bunch of shuffles for various different reasons, of course. In this situation, to have such a long look, especially in the Eastern Conference, you mentioned Philadelphia, for example, where the playoff picture is essentially known in the East, right? In the West, there's some pretty high probabilities to be sure, but Winnipeg can make the fighting argument that they still have a fighting chance. If Lowry is part of what pulls them out, whether it's Connor Hellebuck going on a Vezina-esque tear or Mark Scheifele going off or whatever else it is, if there's an answer in Winnipeg, you can make the case, or I'm sure the Jets would try to make the case, perhaps, that you could bring him back if he's part of the solution. I think there's a lot of situations where that solution is unfindable at this stage, and odds are fairly low, and we could see a lot of turnover, which, I'm sure tampering rules and all that other stuff, but I'm sure there's a lot of folks tapping into a lot of networks across the NHL, right now.
No doubt about it. Murat, just bringing it back to the Jets before we finish up, I want to talk to you about the power play. And again, a bunch of guys weren't available, and we're not going to take Tuesday's game as the way things are going to be going forward, because there were a number of players that weren't available. But when it came to the blue line, Josh Morrissey was back quarterback in the power play, and I'm looking at the numbers here. He had 5 minutes and 48 seconds on the power play. Nate Schmidt had 2:11, and Ville Heinola had 1:33. We've talked about this before as to what the best setup is for the Jet power play, but I'm just wondering whether you think, is Josh Morrissey the number one guy there? Is he your number one guy? And what have you seen from Ville Heinola during his limited time on the power play? Because he certainly brings something that we haven't seen a lot of other Jet defensemen, have that club in the bag, if you will.
Yeah, for me, Ville Heinola is just like this delightful bunch of chaos. He has the ambition and the aggression to jump up, to make plays. Certainly, it's cost him in his first couple of games or what have you. But I think he's been getting better and better. And that the skill set is there and the confidence will grow. He already has a tremendous amount of it. So I like a lot of the things that he does. And at the same time, if a puck gets chipped and it's a 50-50 battle or what have you, I don't trust him as much as Morrissey or whomever else to cover off. So, in your risk analysis, which of those do you prefer? I'm not sure. But I do like Ville Heinola moving forward in the future for a power play option, provided he can generate offense without a cannon. I don't think he shoots like a rocket like some of these guys can. Now, of course, Morrissey's production has come largely from that tee up from Nate Schmidt on what had been the second unit for so long. And that unit was moving the puck quickly and efficiently. And that Schmidt to Morrissey pass was arriving right in the wheelhouse at good times. Schmidt is excellent at sort of looking off a pass and buying just that extra half second or less than half second or whatever it is that a player needs to get a shot off. So I think that perhaps Morrissey's success was contextually driven. I'm not willing to say that he's absolutely the guy. I don't know that of him, Nate Schmidt, Neil Pionk, there's somebody who I think is a top flight number one that is the automatic right choice. And I think that's a challenge. That's something I don't have the answer for. I'm not sure what the answer is.
Yeah, and with Pionk being out, he's always been a central figure in that. I keep going back to Nate Schmidt. I'll just say this for a second unit. I'd love to see a little bit more Ville Heinola. I think he made it was a very excellent way of describing it, that there is a little bit of chaos when he's out there, but it is exciting and it is different that we've seen before, and it allows them to maybe have some different looks, some things that wouldn't show up on video for teams preparing for them. So maybe I've got time for that. I do think that the shot of Nate Schmidt in particular maybe makes him a guy that, might be worthy of a little bit more time with that top unit as they continue to find the best mix to give them the best chance to score with the man advantage.
Yeah, you're looking for somebody on that unit. I think you're looking for somebody whose shot is a dangerous weapon and who can get that shot through. So whether it's about a one-timer of his own that's going to be dangerous for him, or whether he's able to replicate some of what Neil Pionk does well, which is, a softer shot that finds a deflection. Pionk is particularly good at that. You're looking for somebody who can kind of, I don't want to say do it by himself, because obviously the puck movement, the man advantage, there's so many reasons that, the chances that they do get should be of extra quality. It's just I keep thinking about that second unit, that Morrissey and Schmidt combo had been so good together. So yeah, that's That's definitely a thought. I think Schmidt has more offense to give in that role, probably. I'm also interested to see how that bit of rotation works between those forwards, because you saw Wheeler and Scheifele and Connor end up in a couple of different situations and scenarios. There seems to be a little bit more movement there, so I wonder what they're able to create as time goes on.
Hey, you know what? Before we go, folks, if you haven't seen this at The Athletic, and a real interesting piece, you went into a draft. Like, this is right up our alley, drafting stuff, your favorite Olympic hockey jerseys of all time. You jumped on the shout out to the Danes, by the way, first ever win. I know Nikolai Ehlers was fired up about that, disappointed that he wasn't in the game because of everything that's happened. But tell us about going with the 2022 Czechia jersey as your number one pick overall, and maybe just a little blurb on that before people go and check it out.
Well, anytime Sarah Sivian messages you and says she's got a ridiculous idea, you just say, absolutely, I'm in, and you just assume that it's going to be a good time. So she and Sean Shapiro put together this jersey draft, and I wanted to go with my heart. I wanted to find some Team Canada jersey. I got the number one overall pick. This was huge. But the only Team Canada jerseys that I think are flawless are 87 and 72. And those aren't Olympic jerseys, so I couldn't go with them. So I started going through. And I think that the Czechia and the Czech Republic of the years past Olympic jerseys have been on. I love the color scheme. I love the coat of arms. Makes me feel like I'm in Game of Thrones, and like it's on. I have so much time for that jersey. Shout out to various iterations of Canada and all that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, I just think that the best looks in Olympic jerseys right now are probably coming from Europe, not North America.
Well, sneaky pick at number 4. I wouldn't have not have thought of that, but once I saw the picture, ringer pick, the 2014 German jerseys. Germany's had some pretty sick kits going forward, and looking good as well. It was great to see the games come through last night as we got going with the Olympic side of the tournament. Murat, huge weekend for the Winnipeg Jets, and then back at home next week. We've got the Blackhawks on Valentine's Day, and then I'm already counting down the days till that rematch against the Minnesota Wild on Wednesday. It should be great. Have a great weekend, my friend. Thanks for doing this, and we'll look forward to catching up back in the Peg next week.
Right on. Sounds great, Huss. Thanks for having me.
At WPG Murat, that's Murat Atesh. And if you're not subscribed to The Athletic, what the hell are you waiting for? Check out his latest pieces along with that really fun jersey draft over at theathletic.com. We're going to bring in our guy, Brandon Rewucki, in just a second. And I cheers to him, all of our guests yesterday, and all the people that have supported us through this first year, including our friends over at Little Brown Jug. Of course, Little Brown Jug, Winnipeg's favorite locally brewed beer with the iconic 1919 brand that you can get at most fine restaurants and bars throughout the city. Of course, the Brute IPA, brewed for the 5th anniversary in December. And the winter beer that's very popular right now is the Little Brown Jug Double. You can check that out at your local Liquor Mart location, or of course at the tap room down on William Avenue. And don't forget, Little Brown Jug also delivers beer straight to your door 3 days a week on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So if you don't want to leave the house, but you want to get some 1919s delivered tomorrow, just go to littlebrownjug.ca, make that order, and get it cold and delivered to you without having to leave the house. Time for a quick Princess Auto curling report. Great night for the Canadians at the Olympics. A win by Brad Gushue and, of course, Jennifer Jones and their team, proudly sponsored by Princess Auto, in the win column. After, what was it, a 12-7 win in their first game. High scoring, lots of fun. And Jen Jones, if you saw the interview afterwards, she is just absolutely beaming and eating up every single moment of another Olympic experience. I know the gang at Princess Auto, incredibly proud. This entire city and province, incredibly proud, and cannot wait to see the rest of these matchups. I think they've got another game tonight, actually. I guess Winnipeg time, in and around 7 p.m. It's at Team J Jones Curl on Twitter. They've got the full schedule out there with all times Winnipeg time, which will help you get your viewing plans ready. And of course, Princess Auto, in addition to being a great sponsor of Jen Jones and curling around the province, is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 locations here in Winnipeg, and you can Shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. And, you know, we mentioned when we were talking with Vita Health that it is Heart Month. And that means that Boston Pizza is getting ready for Valentine's Day with their always popular promotion, helping the Heart and Stroke Foundation. The heart-shaped pizzas will be in effect on Monday. Make sure to get pick one of those up for you and your sweetheart. And when you pop into a Boston Pizza, make sure to buy a heart supporting the Heart and Stroke Foundation. They've done such a great work in this community over the years in the month of February for that. And now is the time to support Heart and Stroke and our friends over at Boston Pizza. And of course, you can also check out their game day deals and order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's continue our little 1290 reunion here. We had KO, we had Westy, we had Toth on yesterday, and we figured just out of respect, we'd maybe give Brandon a little bit of time and a little bit of space from the guys that he had to put up with in the morning and bring them on today to the program. Brandon, what's up, pal? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Appreciate you having me on once again. Everything going good on your side?
Well, yeah, all good. I mean, no complaints considering, as I said, you know, it was an interesting day yesterday, just thinking what a crazy year it's been. And in some ways it feels like 5 years ago that all happened. And in other ways, it kind of feels like it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, notwithstanding all the insanity in the world and, well, closer to home, unfortunately, lately in and around here. I have to ask you, because everyone has a different story about February 9th, 2021. And we talked to Jim and Troy about this yesterday. You guys famously sort of would finish up your stuff and then, you know, get out of there right at around 10:30. Well, the text message was at 10. The conference call was at 11:20. I mean, were you even on that call? How did you find out about it all happened? What do you remember about a year ago yesterday?
Yeah, it was a great day. A lot of fun. Yeah, so, you know, after 10 o'clock hits, you know, what we would normally do is we kind of stuck around in the studio a little bit and get some work done and things like that.
You did. I'm not sure about those other two.
Yeah, the two bozos beside me were scrolling on Twitter and yelling at people that were yelling back at them.
Or each other.
Or
Saving the good stuff for after the show.
Yeah. But I went home. I think I went home a little bit late. Usually I would go home, you know, 15, 20 minutes after 10, especially because I had my she was 2 months old at the time, my new daughter there, but maybe I didn't get much sleep the night before. I ended up staying closer to 11, and I was driving home and 11 o'clock hits and all of a sudden there's music playing on the station. And I was like, I wonder what like the reason for that is. And so I call Westy quickly. I'm like, Westy, I think something's going on because they're playing music and they're not stopping. And we're like kind of going back and forth on like what we think might have happened. And it wasn't like anything nefarious. We were probably like, like somebody's going to get it from one of the bosses because they forgot to plug in a microphone or something. And then I don't know what it was, like 15, 20 minutes after 11, I'm just scrolling through on Twitter and I saw the tweet that said, bam, Winnipeg, Hamilton, Vancouver. And my wife was in the room and I'm like, holy shit, I think the radio station's done. I don't have a job anymore. And she's like, what? And then I kind of going through it, just, figuring out over the next couple of minutes, like what is actually happening here. And, you come to the realization completely out of the blue, out of nowhere that, yeah, there's no more station. And I gotta sharpen up the resume a little bit because I don't have plans for the next little while.
Oh my God, it was such a bizarre day, but I really did feel for you guys because you were all pretty much in transit as all of this happened. And I always remember being on the thing was supposed to start at, I think it was 11:20. And we're sitting there, and at this point we sort of know what's going down, but you're still waiting to hear for it for yourself. But we were realizing that like half of the guys are not on this call. Like they do not know what's happening right now.
I didn't know about the call. my email was locked at that point.
Oh, what a way to find out. That being said, it's been you've been doing some great work. Obviously with Skates and Plates, also working. Just fill people in because I know people are loving the Skates and Plates coverage that you're doing, talking Winnipeg Jets and more. But you're also working with one of the podcast companies sort of behind the scenes. Just fill us in on kind of what you've got going on outside of regaling this incredible lid. By the way, Toth brought his kid on yesterday with that hair. We kind of knew that you would step it up. You've probably been working on that look for about 2 hours before this visit today.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't, I was gonna wear my hat because I've been wearing it all day because my hair gets in my eyes, but I was like, give the people what they want.
Yes.
So, but yeah, no, that's funny because I saw your tweet about no need for a paternity test. It actually the little one actually looks like Zoolander's kid at the end of Zoolander, right? Like I was just incredibly impressed. But yeah, what am I up to now? So Skates and Plates, my podcast is a part of the Hockey Podcast Network. So, if any hockey fans out there, there's a podcast for each team. You can check that out. But the Hockey Podcast Network is owned by a company called Amaze Media Labs. So they're essentially, to kind of dumb it down quickly here, not to bore everybody too much, but a company that owns a few sports networks, but also does branded podcasts. So large companies can create their own podcast series geared towards whatever they want. And then, we take care of everything on the side there. So been working with them, I guess, for just about a year now. And it's been really good. Yeah, like a really great company. It's nice to have a culture that's, super positive and fostering, and everybody wants to see you do good and everything like that. So it's been about 10 months, I guess, something around that range, but it's been great so far and having a lot of fun doing that.
Hey, I always ask people this because of just the weird times that we're living in. Have you ever met anybody that you work with in real life? So
not for the first 7 or 8 months. Just before Omicron happened, we actually we met for the first time in Vegas. We had a company meeting there. So I went down to Vegas for a couple of days, and it's like the most bizarre thing, right? Because you don't even see anybody's legs, right? You don't know how tall people are and things like that. You just see a head for the most part. And so it was a super unique experience. And I got to see a Vegas Golden Knights game. So, that was pretty good too. But yeah, all in all, everything's going good. So.
Well, that is great to hear. I joke that, even Remo and myself, we're now 236 shows in. We, did all this work beforehand to get in. I don't know whether he and I have been in the same place at the same time more than a half a dozen times in the year. I'm dead serious. And we have a lot of the guys on all the time. And it's great. We're sort of hanging out. This is just, 2022. We do things virtually. Although I will tell people I have bumped into Brandon a number of times in the neighborhood when this guy is doing the most incredible dad duty you'll ever seen. Kid in the basically running down the front-facing backpack with a child in it. I'm not sure what that's called. And then a big dog dragging you down the street, hanging around. It's the ultimate Canadian young dad photo. You, your little one, the dog cruising around the Crescentwood neighborhood. And it's always great to bump into you. But the family's good as well?
Yeah, no, everyone's good. Yeah, the dog is beside me. The little one's upstairs sleeping right now. But Ghost Bear is a big fan of your show as well. Yeah, dad life's pretty crazy, man. It never ends. I've got, what is this, coffee 2 or 3 on the day with me right now, and I've kind of turned into Dan Campbell. His coffee routine when he first got I'm like a mix between him and Will Ferrell from Kicking and Screaming. I'm pretty much going to have an IV of espresso in me by the time Sophie turns 2 years old. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, I guess the good thing is you probably still have to get up pretty early, but just not that early.
Yeah.
Brandon Rewucki's with us. Make sure you check out the Skates and Plates podcast, focusing on mostly the Winnipeg Jets, but also some great food in and around the city of Winnipeg. Let's just quickly hit on the Jets. Very important win. They're all important right now, but coming out of the break, losing those players. There was a lot of people that thought, basically it was over before it started. I have to say that we've seen some of the best performances of the Jets this season when they've been missing half their guys and when everyone thinks all is lost. What did you think of the way they played and the result they got behind a shutout from Hellebuck on Tuesday?
They played awesome. And I would say out of nowhere, but you're right. Like just when everybody's about to jump ship, they do something like that, and you're like, yeah, maybe I'll wait another week or so, right? So, I mean, look, they need to string like 7 or 8 of those together. It's not just, hey, we played great against Minnesota, let's take the next week off. Like, you really need to win something like 8 in a row to realistically get back into it, but it was a positive step in the right direction. So, I mean, that's kind of the way I look at the game as a whole. I mean, from a micro perspective, maybe the most promising thing for Jets fans with where the team is at in the standings right now is the fact that Ville Heinola looks more and more comfortable and more confident each game that goes by. And so his play has been a bit of a bright spot. And then more so than anything, I mean, Cole Perfetti's, he's the truth, man. Like, he's the real deal. And I was texting with my dad during the game. He doesn't watch a ton of Jets games, but he just said, who's 91? Because 91 might be the best player on the ace. I'm like, yeah, that's probably going to be a regular thing moving forward.
Well, it's funny you say that because, and I brought this up to Murat earlier and talked about it on yesterday's show. But being in the building, and I'm not sure whether you're able to really see this, on television, but Perfetti got hit hard a couple times and, ended up playing through it. I thought Ville Heinola, really acquitted himself well. I mean, he only played, I think, about 10 minutes or so, but, certainly was not a liability out there. And to me, that sort of a game in the division against the Minnesota Wild, a game that you had to win, that would have been a game in the past where I don't think Paul Maurice would have really wanted to have very much Cole Perfetti or Ville Heinola out there. And I got to say, going forward, the fact that they played the way that they did and held their own against a very good Minnesota Wild team that meant business on Tuesday night, that might be one of the best takeaways from a single game and a single important win.
Yeah, because they're, fast and physical like crazy. And so if you're overwhelmed by them, most coaches around the league are going to say, you know what, the young guys need to take a bit of a seat here and let the vets handle business. But they acquitted themselves really well. I was just really, really impressed, especially in a game where, Nick Foligno is spin kicking everybody, all kinds of UFC moves all over the place. Like I think even more importantly, you mentioned the play where Perfetti kind of takes a big hit. It wasn't like they shied away from contact. They took a couple big shots, so they just kept going. So that might be more so the main focus moving down the stretch here, barring some kind of crazy run that the Jets go on in terms of a win streak and things like that. I mean, most of the focus is probably going to be on how Perfetti and Heinola do getting NHL minutes down the stretch. I mean, in Perfetti's case, it looks like it's going to be top 6 minutes moving forward, maybe the rest of the way through. But, even for Heinola's case, I mean, he skated with Neil Pionk at practice today. I don't know if he's going to be getting 10 minutes moving forward. It might be 15, 16, 17, 18.
Well, think about the St. Louis game. And I mean, that game, we talked about, that was sort of the blueprint before they stunk it up against your Flyers. But, I mean, he played, I think, 19 minutes in that game and, looked like a completely different player. I mean, looked like he had the confidence and, a little bit of swagger, frankly, that, he belonged and, really did acquit himself well going into that game. All in all, it's one win. And this game we mentioned with Murat, I mean, if there are mandatory wins over the rest of the way, head-to-head matchups with the Dallas Stars, who are in 5th right now in the Central, would be, I think, at the top of that list. And they get right into it tomorrow night.
Yeah. I mean, Nashville hasn't been a great matchup for them either. So they got to face the Preds a couple of times as well. I guess that's the nice thing is you get a little more clarity one way or the other, right? Like if you drop 2 of your next 3, it's basically curtains, unfortunately, not even 50 games into the season. And, then we get about a month and a half of Kopp, Stasny, and whoever else trade talk that we have to go through here. But I mean, I don't know. As a fan of a different team, I like to see wins. I know some people are more interested in what happens next season, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Jets reel off a nice little win streak and maybe make things a little bit interesting for a little bit before we get into which pending UFAs might be out the door.
No doubt about it. Okay, Rob, thank you for the super chat. Rob, T. Will, Schickster, everyone is demanding. Is your dog available? Where's the dog?
Can I get him?
Yeah, can you bring his dog around?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. He's right there available. It's so well behaved as well.
Yeah, sure.
See, this is what we do for the people on. Again, if you're listening on the podcast, Brandon, you should go to YouTube, frankly, just to see Brandon's hair today. But in addition of that, you can come and see this. What's the dog's name again?
His name's Ghost Bear.
Oh, Ghost Bear. That's right, of course. Named after Arizona Coyotes legend, Shane Gostisbehere.
Yeah, who I thought at the time, future Flyer, future forever Philadelphia Flyer. Basically, got healthy, scratched, and moved once I named him that. for the most part, he's a good boy.
They came out of the gate, like they played most of the period going in, with the Jets game notwithstanding. And give us a quick update on the state of the Flyers before we finish up.
Oh God, they suck. I don't know. Like it's not even fun watching them. And then they have a couple, almost like the Jets. They have a couple good games, and then the Red Wings just waxed them last night. All that matters now is what happens with Claude Giroux at the deadline, and if they can get a haul for him. But the team stinks. Like they just suck. And it's funny. It's funny to me, just like having the Flyers Jets, I guess split, is that the Flyers have a bunch of solid forwards that are really defensively responsible, but they're not game breakers. And Flyers fans are always like, oh my gosh, we need game breakers. We need high end skill. This. And Jets fans are like, I saw somebody in one of Murat's articles recently saying Jets draft too many offensively gifted forwards and none of them can play defense. Like that's the problem you want to have, is having too many high end. The Flyers are like going to be screwed for the next 5 years because they don't have that. So maybe if the Flyers and Jets can combine rosters, we might have something going here.
Might be able to squeeze a couple playoff series out of that spot.
Might be able to get the second wild card spot, but I don't know how likely that is.
Hey, B, you're the best, man. Thanks for doing this. All the best to the family. We will look forward to having you back on soon. But we figured, this week, just thinking back to all the fun we had back on Pembina Highway, it was a mandatory call to you to get you on the program today. This was a lot of fun. Have a great one. We'll talk soon.
I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you in happier terms the next time we get together. So
it.
Maybe we can meet on Pembina sometime soon, just at a different place.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll bring some spray paint and sorry, you mean a different place? Oh yeah, exactly. No, listen, we will do that too. I think one place on Pembina that I like to pop in quite often. Might be there tonight. Just saying.
All right, good to know. I might also be there later.
Right on. Brandon_Rewucki. Follow him on Twitter, folks, and make sure you're subscribed to the Skates and Plates podcast wherever you are getting your pods. All right, man, a big shout out to our friends at the Nick and Nicky DQ group. I think I mentioned this yesterday, but Niverville, fastest growing community in Manitoba. I think the latest census, they're up like 29%. And that's not entirely because Nick and Nicky opened up a Dairy Queen there, but I'm sure that's a big part of it. They're excited. They got a new rink. Got the Manitoba Junior Hockey League coming to Niverville. And of course, the location of one of the 4 Nick and Nicky DQs, along with DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. Whether you're popping in for an ultimate grill burger, some of the amazing buffalo chicken fingers, or a blizzard treat, you can also order online or hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba if you need a cake, maybe for your Super Bowl party. They'll get it custom made for you, and you can pick it up quick and easy at any of the 4 Nick and Nicky DQ locations. And a huge thanks to them for being with us before we even turn the mics on for show number 1 of Winnipeg Sports Talk. You know what goes great with the blizzard? A nice stiff Canadian club. Actually, a stiff Canadian club goes well maybe at the end of the day or when you're entertaining on the weekend. And I got good news for you, folks. Canadian clubs on sale all month long for February at your local Manitoba liquor marts. Look for the displays, great month-long prices on Canadian Club Original, Canadian Club 100% Rye, and CC 12-year reserved. So you can pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts, get your hands on some Canadian Club, proud sponsors of us at Winnipeg Sports Talk and the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and of course available at Investors Group Field. And join us tomorrow for your next chance to win a co-branded Winnipeg Sports Talk Canadian Club hoodie on the world-famous Winnipeg Sports Talk marble race. We'll get to the Coolbet Lines. Busy night and a couple big games in the National Hockey League tonight. But before we do that, let's continue our little 1290 reunion and welcome in our good friend, now with Bonfire Sports, Darrin Bauming. It's Darrin Bauming. DB, how are you?
It's good to be back with you, man. It's crazy to think it was a year ago that the sky fell as far as sports talk radio in Winnipeg, but always good to have a voice like yours and like Remo's to carry that torch through and keep a very, very passionate fan base here in Winnipeg fed with enough to, take care of that appetite for sports.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. And the kudos to all the work that you've done. First off, I mean, the IC guys didn't miss a beat. They had their YouTube channel. I mean, I think it happened on the Tuesday and they were up with their regular Saturday show on Saturday. We got going in less than a month. And of course, I mean, you took many of the great things that you did along with Chris Walby and more at 1290 and did it on Bonfire, and Bomber fans loved it and can't wait for year number 2. Just speaking of Feb 9 last year, I mean, that was a time where the CFL was off. So I mean, you weren't as busy for 1290 as normal. What do you remember about that day? Like, how did you find out?
Yeah, I remember I was sitting right where I am right now and just probably, reading my morning news and having a coffee. And I got a phone call from Saskatchewan, Darrin DuPont, good friend, great guy. DuPont Media, of course, created and produces Rod Peterson's show out of Saskatchewan. They've been wildly successful in this new media and for sports talk like we're doing right now. He called me up and he's like, I thought I saw something on Twitter, so I tuned into 1290. They're playing music. Why are they playing music? I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I gotta call you back. And I jumped on Twitter and I threw on, like this old, boom box from my childhood behind me, dialed it up to 1290, and I couldn't believe my ears. I was expecting to hear KO and Munns and the regular sound of sports in Winnipeg as we knew it for a decade. And yeah, like it was a huge wake up call. It was a huge shock. And to think, I'm reading emails that morning about how great our streaming numbers were doing and, the upcoming Blue Bombers season. Walby and I were going to do some off-season stuff, for the Bombers and that sort of thing. And coming off a Grey Cup championship, it was going to be a big season. Obviously, that season didn't happen for the Canadian Football League, but what a weird day it was. Hard to digest for a while. But, in talking to you and Remo and so many other people, to know you guys were getting it going like the Illegal Curve guys, just changing mediums, but keeping that same show and quality and the familiarity that the fan base here in Winnipeg became accustomed to was a great thing. And it, Hustler, I told you this, so how about that? There you go. That's new media there for you right there. My camera drops a little bit. We'll get that fixed up. But it was, a conversation with you that encouraged me to create Bonfire Sports and to, venture into this and keep Blue Bombers coverage alive and well beyond rights holders, right? To get into some conversations that maybe aren't had by the team or by those that pay for their rights. So, to have Walby on board for season 1, fully expect him to be back for season 2 was awesome. I miss being in the studio with Chris Curry, with the rest of the staff, with Westy. All became such good friends of mine over the last, 7-8 years that we did the pregame and postgame show on 1290. I miss watching the games with those guys, but I know Walby really enjoys being able to go to the lake, doing some stuff with me and enjoying his weekends. Westy too. That's a great thing. That, flexibility is a little bit different now, but still being able to do those things we love and give the people out there what they love. And, that's our perspective on their 2-time champion Grey Cup winners.
Well, no doubt. It's a great time to be talking Bombers. And bottom line is you guys did a great job. I mean, everyone loved the conversations. I mean, you were, obviously you worked very hard at covering the Blue Bombers, and I had the benefit of 2 football legends to be with you on those shows and popping in on Bonfire. I always joke when people are asking about what we've done with Winnipeg Sports Talk is that, we knew what we were going to do. We didn't exactly know how we were going to do it. And Remo and I have a good partnership. We sort of handle very different sides of the operation. And he basically went to the University of YouTube for the better part of the next 3 weeks and learned it out. What was the most challenging thing on your end of just getting it going? Because as we know, it's sort of like 90% of the work for 10% of the results at the start. And then as you get over that hill, things start rolling. And now things certainly have been rolling for Bonfire throughout that Bomber season, ending up with that great trip you had to the Grey Cup.
Yeah, it's about juggling so many things at once, right? And for you to have Mike there to handle that side of things, that's a great partnership you guys have created, and it shows in the quality of your program. And 236 episodes, congratulations again. I know all your numbers across podcasts and streaming and everything is awesome, and it shows in your sponsorships and everything. But for me, it's tough. I'm kind of alone. I've looked at some partners and things worked out and things didn't work out. Nick Kowalski was going to join me for some football coverage and off-season stuff as
Signed
well.
as a free agent.
Yeah, like the dude is a stud, right? Like I thought I found a diamond in the rough in him, but I didn't find him, but partnered up with him and took him to Grey Cup. He absolutely crushed it. The guy's work ethic and professionalism and just his quality of diverse ways he's able to engage with fans and create things through betting and football and social media and everything. No surprise, the BC Lions snagged him up. So proud of Nick and the work he's done and the future that he has ahead of him, signing with the BC Lions and moving out to the Lower Mainland to be part of that definitely growing and budding franchise there in the Vancouver area. But YouTube University, like that was my best friend, calling Remo and being like, how does this streaming work? How do the cameras and mics and lights and all this stuff work? And juggling that with writing for NHL.com and I wrote for a couple magazines last summer and then Bomber season and being down there at practice and taking it all in and continuing those contacts both with people that I had at TSN as well as the rest of the country and the rest of the media and people involved in the Canadian Football League. It was a lot to take on, but like any big job, you chip away at it, and excited what is still to come with Bonfire Sports, and frankly, what's still to come in this medium. We're seeing people in Vancouver and Edmonton and Hamilton and Toronto and Montreal and here in Winnipeg, maybe especially here in Winnipeg, really take this YouTube and podcasting platforms and create and be creative and give that fan base what they deserve, and that's consistent quality programming, so they can enjoy their teams a little bit more than just watching the games themselves.
Darrin Bauming's with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. All right, let's get to your area of expertise, and that, of course, is the Bombers in the Canadian Football League. Been a crazy week. We've been talking about it really since it happened. Andrew Harris signing with the Toronto Argonauts. As we mentioned earlier today, an extensive, very revealing interview with Paul Friesen of the Winnipeg Sun that, was released last night or in today's paper. People should go check it out. A pretty frank, honest recollection of how things went. It was interesting, the relationship with Mike O'Shea, referring to what happened last year, the big picture of moving on with younger running backs. I mean, it all is part and parcel of it. That didn't make it any easier for 33 to move on to Double Blue.
Yeah, it was eye-opening. And, General Manager Kyle Walters used the word sad to describe how tough that decision and that direction he took the football team. Andrew Harris used that same word as well in his interview with Paul Friesen, and great work by Paul to thoroughly follow up and follow through with all of that perspective from Andrew Harris. Not a completely unique situation, but somewhat rare in that he is a player and a high-profile player that represents himself in the Canadian Football League. Willie Jefferson does it. A variety of others do it as well. And not just, all-star caliber players, but a lot in the Canadian Football League. And it's got to be tough, right? Like the homecoming for Andrew Harris, the corner that this franchise was turning at that time, for him to play at the level he did with 3 straight rushing titles, and then winning a championship in 2019. That year off was tough. And as Harris shared with Paul Friesen, the difficulties and challenges that he faced in his personal life through 2020 and 2021, and how that affected his play on the field, how he showed up to training camp, admittedly out of shape and maybe not in the best condition at the age of 33 at the time to, play at his best. Dollars to donuts, the Blue Bombers were 9-0 when Andrew Harris started. And He was a 136-yard gainer in the West Final, maybe the most, next to the Grey Cup, clearly the most important game the Blue Bombers won in that run to that back-to-back championship. And I have no doubt Harris's chip on his shoulder is even bigger than maybe he described to Paul Friesen in the Winnipeg Sun.
I agree.
33 in double blue is going to be very, very interesting to watch. It's going to be must-see TV. It's a shame he's not going to be, the Argos aren't coming to IG Field this year.
Definitely.
I'm going to be watching really closely week 4 when the Bombers visit the Argos at BMO. But we got to remember too, like DJ Foster is a really, really good running back. Like he ran all over the Blue Bombers in that Argos win in the regular season this past year. So, how much Andrew Harris will be involved in that offense will be interesting. You watch the video of Mike Pinball Clemens, the Argos GM, how excited he was. Like, I mean, the guy is always pure energy, but to see how elated he was in that room was that Argos war room on free agency day to land Andrew Harris. No doubt they're excited. No doubt they're going to utilize him. But when it comes down to the legacy and the business nature, that this legacy ends here in Winnipeg and will continue on with a third team for Winnipeg's native son, Andrew Harris. It's kind of a tough one, no doubt a hard pill to swallow for a lot of fans and people out there that love watching him for his hometown team, his teammates here in Winnipeg. I'm curious of the fallout that might bring in the coming weeks, Hustler. But, there's a lot of, wrinkles to all of this to discuss and see how it shakes out in the coming days. His first media availabilities in Toronto, as well as, once the season gets going here in the spring and summer.
Yeah, no kidding. And just as far as, there's lots of off-field aspects to this. And you mentioned, the team reaction from other members of the club. Certainly fan base reaction. All of this is part of it. But just strictly on the field, the one thing that stands out to me is there's a lot of pressure now on Brady Oliveira and Johnny Augustine to go get the job done. These are massive shoes to fill in the Bomber backfield. And, both of them acquitted themselves quite well. But Andrew Harris was Andrew Harris. And, the running game, I don't think is going to be a lot less of a factor going forward. In fact, you could argue that with what's happened at the receiving core, at least as we speak right now, there might be more of an emphasis on it. So both of those guys better be ready to go. I imagine Brady, huge opportunity for Johnny Augustine, who has been very productive when he's had the chance to get the football, but it's been such a crowded backfield. He hasn't had many opportunities. Now really is his time to shine.
Absolutely. And certainly it's going to be a challenge for the Blue Bombers to maybe meet those external expectations with the standard Andrew Harris set, just with how tenacious he was on the field, running the ball, receiving, leadership in the huddle, on the sidelines, the energy he brought, all of that. I can tell you what Mike O'Shea is going to say on the first day of training camp already, and that's, we're not asking Brady and Johnny to fill Andrew Harris's shoes. We want them to be themselves. That will be the message from the Blue Bombers, and rightfully so. You cannot replace a legend. You cannot expect anybody, let alone young players new to this league, relatively new to this league, 2-3 years of experience, to be Andrew Harris in all facets that he brought. There's a reason he is a future Hall of Famer. There's a reason why he commands $160,000 from the Toronto Argonauts for 2022. And it's beyond being able to bull rush through tacklers. It goes beyond that. So for the Blue Bombers, I would love to see a true committee backfield, like Oliveira on first down, Augustine on second down. Next series, switch it up. Use them in different ways. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about this, and they raised a very excellent point. Johnny Augustine is kind of that, it's like that backup goaltender, right? Like, just give him more opportunity. Look how good he's been in limited time. How hard Johnny Augustine runs, the physical condition that he is in. Like, if you're not familiar, Johnny Augustine eats like a rabbit. Like, it is the cleanest diet you can imagine. The work he does with his trainers, his speed coach, Glenn Bruce, here in Winnipeg, how in tune he is to taking care of his body and his mind and everything. And then seeing him with the ball in his hands and how tenacious he is and how hard he finishes runs. I'm also curious of whether he can keep that up, if he takes 20 carries a game, if he can play to that level all the time, if he can, maybe we have, a serious all-star caliber Hall of Famer on our hands like Andrew Harris was. Harris is a rare individual, a rare talent. Johnny Augustine has shown some of that. Brady Oliveira has shown some of that. 2022 is going to be their opportunity to really show what they can do. But I think expectations should remain in check because, there's a lot that goes into who Andrew Harris was and how he was so effective on the field.
Darrin Bauming of Bonfire Sports with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. DB, before we go, you sort of mentioned this quickly, but I'll let folks know that you can read more of Darrin's work on the Winnipeg Jets over at NHL.com. Big win on Tuesday night against the Minnesota Wild. And man, they didn't just need that one. They need a bunch more. What a huge back-to-back on Friday, Saturday, starting off in Dallas tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's do or die time, like live by the bullet, die by the bullet for the Winnipeg Jets right now. Nice to see Scheifele get on the board, albeit it was a bit of a fluffer or a knuckler. Didn't get all of that
counts.
shot. But
he needed it big time.
Yeah, like the monkey is off his back, so that helps a lot. But, to see Connor Hellebuyck play to the level he did, to see him that jacked up after the game, Huss, I caught your Instagram of, him doing the first
star. You got to get
the
phone out when Hellebuyck gets the first star. There's going to be something fun coming.
Exactly. So, if he's rejuvenated, Scheifele feels better, if we can get more, the Jets can see more 200-foot production from him and from, those line mates, maybe it sparks something here. But again, yeah, like it's live and die by the bullet right now. The Winnipeg Jets can't rely, especially in a game against Dallas. They can't rely on pushing things to overtime. They need clean regulation wins. And with a heavy home schedule, a lot through February, but especially in March, I think there's 11 games at Canada Life Center. That's when Winnipeg can really make hay. The sun will be shining. We'll just see if, the hockey gods continue to shine on the Winnipeg Jets. They're going to need all the help they can get.
Yeah, they're going to need to have a big February to make a big March a possibility and to make it matter. Looking forward to the games. And of course, looking forward to your continued work at NHL.com, having you back on the program and everything you have cooking over at Bonfire Sports. Folks, go over to YouTube at Bonfire Sports and make sure you give Darrin a sub. Have a great one, dude. Great to catch up.
Appreciate you, Hustler. Be good, Remo. Take care, guys.
All right, great talking to DB. Oh, this has been such a fun show. Awesome to have Rick on, Brandon, Darrin, and of course, we always love chopping it up with Murat Atesh of The Athletic. All right, let's get to the Coolbet Lines, Remo. Tonight,
hey, whoa. Before we get to the Coolbet Lines, I got to make a big announcement, give you a shout out, Huss. I want to give you a big happy birthday. I've had to get that in there. I slipped my mind at the start of the show, but I wanted to give you, I don't know what the number is, but I hope it's a good one, and all the best, man.
Well, it's not 50 yet, but I'm feeling about 70 after what we've been through in the last year. No, just kidding. Hey, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Didn't want to make a big deal about it, but
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
I do pledge I'll be ready for the lock shop tomorrow. I'll be ready for the show tomorrow, but I can't promise that we maybe don't have a little bit of fun tonight. All right. So yeah, what would really make a birthday great? A couple winners over at Coolbet. I had the bet. There's nothing better than waking up, checking your account, and realize that you just hit a couple dubs. I rode with Chris last night on a Canada-Sweden curling parlay. That one came in, and we had a 3-gamer for Olympic men's hockey from the lock shop on Tuesday that came in. So we're kind of heating up heading into the Super Bowl. Of course, tomorrow we'll be all over the Super Bowl, both on the lock shop and on the program. Axaw is going to join us. But tomorrow at noon, 1 hour before Winnipeg Sports Talk, just check my Twitter at Hustlerama, and we will be doing it. Elliot, thanks a lot. Hey, you had a birthday this week too.
I knew the chat was gonna pop off, so I had to mention it. Not like super chats, but it's nice seeing everyone give you the good wishes. But thank you, Elliot.
Theo Seeger's happy 69th B-Day Hustler. Yeah. That's pretty much happy 8. Oh, I thought that said 80th.
Brandon says B-Day. Happy 35th.
Yeah. Well, I'll take that. We're unfortunately a little past 35 right now, but anyways, we're gonna hopefully keep this going for tonight. Just as we were finishing up, the last interview going in, how about this? Let's women's curling tonight. Let's take Canada over Japan at -200. Let's go with Switzerland over the Rock and Great Britain over Korea. Those three together get us a +205 parlay. So we'll do that on the women's curling side of things. And then great night for National Hockey League action. A bunch of games. The big game, though, is Tampa at Colorado. Big challenge for the Avs to get it done at home against the defending champs. I'm going to roll with Colorado. Patrick Laine's heating up. We ride with Laine on this program. We'll take Columbus at Buffalo -111 and the St. Louis Blues over the New Jersey Devils. Those three together a +407. So even throw it on $20, pays just over $100. All the Olympics are available for you at Coolbet, and there's like 400 different prop bets for the Super Bowl. We'll get to those on the Lock Shop tomorrow, and certainly tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you haven't played at Coolbet before, folks, this is a pretty great time to do it. Lots of fun things to bet on, especially the big game on Sunday. Use the promo code WST if you're a first-time player, and we'll double that first deposit up to $200 by using the promo code WST. So yeah, Remo should be good tonight. I feel like we should have a Jet game tonight, but listen, there's a lot of other good things to watch. And then, hey, I'll take the Friday, Saturday back-to-back heading into Super Bowl Sunday. Going to be another great weekend of sports. But it's going to be a great Friday to finish off the program. Ken Weeb is going to join us. We'll have Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. We're also going to be checking in with Phil Dos Santos, the new head coach of Valor FC. Their training camp starts next week. And by the way, Remo, I should have mentioned this earlier. We had so much going on. We spent a lot of time talking soccer lately. We've been mentioning Canada's world ranking. And I believe, didn't you do a reel of us explaining how all that works? People should check out the Instagram page. Maybe give that one a like. But we found out today, Canada has moved up to 33rd in the world, highest world ranking in Canadian history. And what's key about this is that it almost guarantees Canada of being in the third pod, I guess, when it comes to World Cup seedings, which is a big advantage as opposed to being in the fourth and hopefully avoiding a group of death scenario. So find out a little bit more about the local squad, Valor FC, but great news for Canadian soccer. And we were expecting it, but it sort of became official today when the FIFA rankings come out. One more ranking, I believe, going into March when there's still a potential for Canada to continue to move up. And that's just more excitement for this incredible Canadian team that has captivated the entire country coast to coast before the World Cup in Qatar in November.
Yes, you're referring to our reel where someone asked you, can you, I don't know anything about soccer. Can you explain to me what's going on with Team Canada and why I should care? Well, you gave about a minute spiel, and I put it on our Instagram as a reel. So Sports Talk WPG on Instagram. Give us a follow. It's this one here. Is Canada becoming a soccer country? About a minute long, worth watching if you need to know why you should care. Here's some other clips from the show. We're trying to do more every day. Sports Talk WPG on Instagram. So please give us a follow. We're closing in on 2,000 followers on there. I'm really putting in an effort now on that one. Maybe you weren't doing it before. So thanks everyone who's tuned in today and helped out for sure.
It was first things first, but this is going pretty smoothly right now, trying to get it out. But yeah, and certainly if you're on Facebook, if you're not, I don't blame you. It is a cesspool for the most part, but at least maybe some of our Winnipeg Sports Talk content can take people away from conspiracy theories and other craziness that happens on that platform. So if you are on Facebook, make sure to like the page, get that out there, and hit up the Instagram as well. I just got to thank the guys again. Remo, these last couple shows, I was thinking about doing something for February 9th for a while, and no better way to bring back all the voices that we had so much fun talking sports with over the years. The guys will certainly not be strangers. We'll have them on again in the future, but a special thanks to Rick Ralph. Great to talk to Rick today. Brandon, as always, Darrin Bauming, and of course yesterday, KO, Jim, and Westy. A really fun couple days, and I think we've seen it in the numbers and how many people have been both with us live, listening to the podcast, and enjoying the shows.
Yeah, I'm enjoying all the comments from everyone. And I mean, we did get a bit of a bump yesterday for, I don't know if it was because CFL free agency or the Jets won a game, but I think people were fired up to see Troy, Brandon, Jim, Darrin. Who else? I miss him. Murat and Mike, of course, and Kevin O. How could I forget Kevin O? But yeah, great seeing everyone in the chat. This is always so much fun. So great part of my day being here. I see all your comments. So thank you guys for couldn't do it without all you guys. this show. It's great seeing everyone here.
No, exactly, folks. And hey, it's going to be a fun one tomorrow. Getting ready for the big game, getting ready for a huge weekend for the Winnipeg Jets. And you know what? We should mention that, you know, I know Pete's all fired up. Ice are back Friday, Saturday this week. Medicine Hat finally getting games back on. So it should be fun. Or actually, no, it's tonight against the Wheaties. Excuse me, I'm mixing it up. Wheaties and Ice tonight at the Ice Cave. So if you're looking for some live hockey, you can get out there. And then another game at home Saturday night against Swift Current. So again, thanks to everyone and all of our sponsors, F Apparel, Royal Sports, Manitoba Battery, Culligan Water, Vita Health, Not Auto Corp, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club, Coolbet Canada. And Remo, we went a little long, but for everyone that's with us live on YouTube, slide on over to Kenny and Rennie. I know they got Christina Rutherford. They've got Arash Madani as well joining them. So we'll pop over, say hi to the guys, tell them that the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Have a great night this evening. Thanks for all the birthday wishes in the comments. Really appreciate that. And we'll be at it tomorrow. Marble race, Super Bowl talk, Jets at Stars. Going to be a packed show. Don't miss it. And thanks for joining us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.